What's going on, fellow A-Plusers? It's your host, Adam Perez, back once again for a brand new episode of A-Plus Hero Report. We got 6 main topics for you guys today, as we're going to go ahead and kick off this show with a brand new Superman update, as James Gunn went ahead and celebrated the birthday of Superman this week by giving us a little bit of a tease at the Superman costume. We're going to be diving into that for you guys, along with some Captain America 4 news and rumors that I think you guys will certainly be interested in checking out. We also have a first look at the upcoming Crow reboot and a ton more, guys. So sit back, relax, and we'll see you guys on the other side. Hey, welcome all, one and all, to another episode of A-Plus Hero Report. It's your host, Adam Perez, joined by good old Stuart Branscombe once again, going live for you guys today over on YouTube, Facebook, and switching it up today by going live over on Twitter. So we'll see how this certainly goes. I know we usually go live over on Twitch, but I want to experiment a little bit here today and see how live streaming on Twitter would certainly go for us. So we'll definitely check it out. But what's going on, Stu? Good to see you, man. How you been?
I've been good. Good to be here. Yeah, it's been a pretty good week. I was mentioning before the show that Dune's been doing really good at our theater, and we have the movie in film, and it looks really nice on film. Honestly, yeah, that's 70 millimeter. The one downside is that okay, so according to Jim, he's our projectionist. I guess they had to shrink the film a little bit in order to fit it onto the film reel, or they had to shrink the movie to fit it on the film reel because I guess it was shot digitally. So because of that, if you watch it, like I guess this only appears if you watch it on film, but not in IMAX. There's a little bit of a box around the movie, so you have bars both like on top and on the sides, but it is barely noticeable, so it does still look pretty good.
Was it meant to be put on 70 millimeter, or is that something that you and your the company decided to do?
I'm not sure. But yeah, I honestly don't know. I want to say it was probably meant to be on 70 millimeter, but that was just like something they did so they wouldn't have to. I guess if they had made it so it like took up the full like screen, they would have had to use more reels. And I guess they wanted to shorten the amount of reels they would have to print just to save money or something. I'm not 100% sure. I just noticed that like kind of small little detail and thought that was a little bizarre. But besides that, so far from what I've seen of Doom 2, because I haven't watched it yet, but I have worked a couple of showtimes while working at the Draft House. It looks gorgeous. So I am really excited to watch this movie.
Yeah, I have not seen it yet. I was going to try and check out Dune yesterday, the first Dune, but I decided to, since we were going to talk a little bit about The Crow tonight on our show, I figured let me go ahead and pop in the 1994 The Crow and check that out for myself. So I watched that last night. But yeah, I was going to ask you if you had seen Dune 2, because I've just been seeing a ton of like amazing reviews for it so far. I haven't really dug deep into reviews, but everybody's calling it a cinematic masterpiece and a huge achievement sort of thing. Some people saying it feels like the 1977 Star Wars, watching it for the very first time. So I'm like, that's some pretty bold takes, you know. So there's a part of me that really wants to see this movie. So I got to check out the first Dune first.
Yeah, the acting all around is amazing from everyone. Especially got to give a shout out to Dave Bautista because again, I've mentioned this before when he was cast as Drax in Guardians. I think that he started getting typecast a lot as that type of character. But thanks to this director, because it started. Really, I guess that there were a couple other movies where it started where he was able to show his like true like acting skills, but I think it kind of really started though in Blade Runner 2049. Even though he had a very, very, very small part in it, he was so fucking good in that small part, and so it's really cool to see him have a much bigger role in here and really being able to show off like his full range of acting.
That's cool, man. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it for sure. But let's go ahead and address some of the people. Look, if this is your first time checking out A-Plus Hero Report, thank you very much for certainly joining us. We like to wrap up your weekend with this week's movie, television news in regards to anything really superhero related, sci-fi, fantasy, whatever the case may be. We're definitely here to go ahead and round it up for you and end off your week nicely. We like to go ahead and start off our episodes with the honorable mention some topics that didn't quite make the cut, but felt you guys certainly deserve to know about it. Then, of course, we got 6 main topics, and then, of course, we'll end the show off with your guys' live viewer questions. So, if you want to submit a live viewer question, just go over to our YouTube channel, click on that community tab, and you will find a live viewer question post. But you know what, Stuart? Let's go ahead and kick off our first segment today. And before we get into our honorable mentions, I do want to give some shout outs to people that are joining us live today. We got Ram Jam in the house, loving this suit, classic throwback Superman suit with the belt and red trunks. Yeah, first off, I do want to give a shout out to the person that did the artistic work for the Superman that you see on our thumbnail. It is not my own. I just want to say that it is not an exclusive like reveal from James Gunn or anything like that. I want to say, yes, the gentleman that actually created the fan art for Superman you see on our thumbnail, you can actually find him over on Twitter at JobHutz, JOBHUTZ. He's been doing some amazing work. Really just kind of getting his idea what he personally thinks the David Corn Sweat Superman suit is certainly going to look like. So again, that's at JobHutz over on Twitter if you want to go ahead and give him a shout out. But just figured he deserved to get some credit for that amazing art piece. What'd you think of what he put together, Stuart? Did you see the thumbnail?
Yeah, I mean, if someone told me that was the actual suit, I'd probably believe it.
Right? Yeah, me too,
Yeah.
man. Me too. Pretty damn convincing. What's up, Blossom? Good to certainly see you as well. We got Enrique Perez here in the house, probably my cousin related to somewhere far down my line for all I know. He says, I just saw the final trailer for the upcoming Ghostbusters Frozen Empire movie. Also, Oscars 2024 is airing next Sunday night. I'm looking forward to the Oscars. I wanted to do a live stream here, Stuart, but then I realized I'm actually going to be out of town that weekend.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm actually going to Austin beginning on the 8th through the 12th to see my brother. So I'm not even going to have my laptop with me to do any kind of stream. So maybe I'll watch it. Maybe I'll watch the Oscars. Maybe I'll even live tweet, but it's no stream for us this year, man. Another year, no Oscar live stream. 2025 is going to be the year, Stuart, I think.
2025 it is.
Yeah, 2025 it is. What's up, Mariba? Good to see you in here, man. Him and I definitely connect from time to time over on Twitter. I love his post. So shout out to Mariba if you get a chance over on Twitter also. Yeah, this is interesting seeing that we're getting some Twitter posts here from people. So I'm kind of digging the setup. We'll see if this becomes a norm for us, if you will. But Stuart, let's go ahead and kick off some honorable mentions, man. I don't know if you happen to have any this week, but let me know if you do.
I do have one.
What you got?
Although I don't know how many people this will apply to, because I don't know if we have any Yu-Gi-Oh card players on our that are subscribed to our channel. But so Master Duel, which is basically an app for the game Yu-Gi-Oh, they currently have a new thing going on where it's an event that only allows you to use cards from November 25th of 2004 and before. And I don't know, it's just been a lot of fun playing that game mode because it's like, man, this is the Yu-Gi-Oh that I remember playing growing up. The game has changed just so much over the years, and it's not that it's bad. It's still Yu-Gi-Oh. It still has fun things about it, but for me, I kind of prefer kind of like the slow build up leading to like kind of the more epic, how it gets like more epic over time. Whereas now it's like the game's kind of turned into you have to basically use as many special effects as at once in order to summon basically as many cards as you can all at once. Basically, the game is made so you have to go all out. You have to try to win as fast as possible, rather than like kind of in the early days when it was more about waiting to use your strong cards because you weren't sure what kind of traps, what kind of cards your opponent had that could easily take care of them for you. So what I'm trying to say is like the build-up's gone nowadays. It's just straight up people like play their full hand all at once, and again, that's fine, but I kind of miss the slow build-up that we had back in the day. So if anyone here misses old school Yu-Gi-Oh. It's back on Master Duel. Even if you are just getting started, you don't have any money to invest in a deck yet, that's totally fine. They give you some really solid loaner decks that you can use
That's
that
cool.
can help you learn new strategies. And if you make a new account, honestly, I don't even think you need to spend. I have not spent a single cent on this game so far, and I still have several solid decks that I've just made just from winning a bunch of duels. So you can honestly probably create a good deck of your own if you get started now. We are not sponsored by Master Duel. The only reason I am really promoting this, like as our honorable mention, is because holy crap, I am having so much fun. It has just been an absolute blast, and I just kind of wanted to share that to all of you guys. If there are any Yu-Gi-Oh players in here that might be interested.
Yeah, we actually don't have any sponsors. How we continue to grow is through you guys. So any support would certainly go ahead and help us out. That kind of reminds me, Stuart. You mentioned the idea of like not having that slow burn or that buildup anymore. Is that like a generational thing now? Because I feel like everything is so quick these days. Snippets. Long form is kind of gone these days. I wonder if that is also translating into how people play their card games. Also.
You know what? I think you might be right. TikTok killed Yu-Gi-Oh. That is canon.
Honest, it's so funny because you mentioned that because I literally was just watching on Instagram. There was a video by a guy named Legendary J, I believe. He made a great video of him and his buddies playing Uno, and he created it in such a way where it felt like I was watching an anime with like the close-up shots of like the cards and the power-ups as he's throwing down the draw twos and the reverses and stuff. I mean, it was so epic to watch. I had a blast watching. I think I might have posted it over on Twitter as well, but we definitely posted it on IG. I think it's L Legendary J if you want to go ahead and check it out. But it's a really great mashup of him playing a quick Uno card game in the most epic anime fashion you could possibly imagine. Some great creativity.
J as in the letter J or Jay?
Jay, Legendary Jay. I believe it's L Legendary Jay, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe it's one Legendary. I can't remember. But yeah, check it out if you guys can certainly find it. But let's see here. What other honorable mentions we have? We do have ourselves a brand new poster here for Ultraman Rising. Ultraman and Netflix continue to do some great collaborations with each other. This one is set to go ahead and drop June 14th. For those of you unaware, the synopsis, or at least I should say the brief description for this says, when Tokyo is under attack from kaiju, Ultraman discovers his greatest challenge isn't fighting giant monsters, it's raising one. And so we've got June 14th. I think we might have gotten a brief teaser trailer on this. I don't know if they've ever originally released a full trailer on it, but I am eager to see more of it. I'm really hoping it's not just him with this cuddly little creature the whole entire time. I have a feeling there's probably a little bit more to this story than they're certainly letting on. But maybe this is more of a family friendly sort of Ultraman movie compared to some of the television series or series that we've gotten from them on Netflix before. But if you guys are interested in seeing how the collaboration between Ultraman and Netflix continues, June 14th, guys, we got ourselves a brand new movie.
Yeah, I love the even though I didn't finish it, I really like the Netflix show that they had for Ultraman. And so I like that this movie seems to be going for a very different target audience, but still seems to have that Ultraman feel. Even like the idea of him raising a monster kind of feels in character, because like even in the original like Ultraman show, there'd be episodes where it's like they talk a lot, even though it's like always a monster of the week, we got to defeat the monster. There would be episodes where they would talk about the morality of what they're doing, because some monsters that they'd be fighting, they actually weren't like necessarily trying to be harmful, but yeah, exactly. So I like that. I think that could have a lot of potential.
Yeah, I think there's something there for sure. We also wind up having a trailer for The Strangers. Chapter 1 wind up dropping. This movie is set to go ahead and drop May 17th. I believe this was the first official poster that we wind up getting, and it also accompanied a brand new trailer as well. So The Strangers Chapter 1. I don't know, did you happen to catch this one this week, Stuart?
I didn't, but that is a really cool looking poster.
It's like a pretty cool poster. Yeah, I totally agree. I love the trailer that we wind up getting. I'm assuming that this is sort of a sequel or a prequel to the original The Strangers that we wind up getting, just based off of what it said in the trailer alone. You know, find out how the strangers became the strangers, sort of thing. So I would assume that this might be a prequel. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, though. But really enjoyed it. Creepy as F, to be quite frank with you. Very similar to how the first one was. You know, I thought in the first movie there was a great line when the lady asks, you know, why are you doing this to us? And they say, because you were home. And that always left a really chilling effect because it's like they could have just done this to anybody, right? Like there's no true motive or anything like that. It's just the fact that you guys just happened to be the ones that were home and we just wanted to terrorize you and kill you guys. They kind of deliver that same line in here. The girl asks, why are you doing this to us? But the girl says, because you were here. It doesn't have that same effect to me in the sense of because you were here, because you were home. Like, I guess
Mhm.
maybe the concept is they are like on a, I think on a trip together. I think this might be like a cabin that they're kind of renting out. So it's not really their home, but there is just something really chilling about somebody like invading your actual home. You know, like there's like a privacy
Mhm.
aspect to it that's just very eerie to me. But to say the least, regardless of the line that they delivered in here, it still looked pretty chilling. They got some pretty great sequences in here, so we'll see. We'll see how this kind of turns out. But if you guys are fans of the first Strangers, I'm sure you're probably going to want to go ahead and check this one out. Also, so this drops May 17th.
Um, I don't know if it was The Strangers that I'm thinking of. But was it The Strangers 2 that had probably the dumbest victims like ever in cinema? Because I just know it was a very similar concept to this, where it was like just people in like creepy masks killing people, in places where they feel the most safe. So in the particular movie that I'm thinking of, there was a scene where essentially it's kind of that cliche. All right, we're on vacation, family, so put your phones in the bag. We don't have phones, which is of course the easy horror explanation of why they don't use their cell phones. I can forgive that part. But the part that like really blew my mind of how stupid the dad was is the two kids run out of the house to the parents who are by the car at this moment, and they're like, there's a dead body in the house, dad. And the dad's like, not only does he not believe the kids, his response, rather than driving away right now and calling the authorities, his response is, hey, he points to the daughter, you wait here with your mom. The two of us are going to go back
No,
into the house to check this out.
why?
And
Why?
at that point, it's just like, okay, yeah, you deserve to die.
Why? Why?
No sympathy anymore.
I mean, I I tell my girlfriend all the time, like, babe, if I come to you and I say some really outlandish, crazy shit that makes you think we should run or get out of here, like, just please believe me. Okay. Just please believe me. Like, just don't ask any questions. So yeah, always, I don't want to say always believe your kids, but if they come out to you with some crazy shit like that, please don't investigate. All right.
Mhm.
And I've also told my girlfriend too, like, babe, if one day out of the blue I just come to you and say, listen, I need you to pay close attention. I'm from the future. I'm trying to warn you of something. Just believe me. Okay. Like, let's not have 2 hours of me trying to explain what's going on. Just believe me. Because yeah, there's no other reason why I would say that to you. So
The winning
um
lottery numbers are. Oh no,
yeah,
I'm going
write
back
this
to the
down.
future.
Yeah, write this down. Write this down now. All right. And then last but not least, we do have an announcement in regards to the Fantastic Four. You know, Stuart, we were just talking about this when they announced it. Like, how are they going to create the thing? You know, we both really enjoyed how they did the practical suit from the first Fantastic Four. I gotta imagine since then our technology has certainly improved for them to do practical again if they certainly wanted to. There were complaints about him. I think Michael Chiklis talking about how uncomfortable the suit certainly was back in the day. You know, even in the second, or I should say that most recent rebooted Fantastic Four, they really went that route of CGI. I'm assuming that was probably also some level of motion capture too. Do you recall how they did the behind the scenes thing for that by any chance?
I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure it's safe to say it was probably motion capture.
Well, we do have an update here this week, as the gentleman that's going to be playing the Thing, Ebon Moss Bachrach, he actually came out this week and gave us some clarity as to how the Thing was going to be portrayed. So it looks like he had a recent appearance over on Jimmy Kimmel Live. He was asked about the upcoming film, if he had been fitted for any type of suit for the Thing. And then he revealed, to his knowledge, his role in the film will be more based on performance capture, calling the practical suit kind of cosplay for the time, is what he referred to it as. He says, in the past, I think they've done a suit. Michael wore a suit that apparently was really uncomfortable, and it's kind of, we're past that, I think. It's a little kind of cosplay, a little amateur, that stuff now with the technology we have. So yeah, I think it's mostly performance capture. Motion capture, performance capture is what he clarified it as. And look, while I certainly prefer a practical suit, I do think that there are elements to it that certainly work. I'm certainly not mad at them in the choice of doing something like a performance capture. It certainly makes sense. I just hope it looks a lot better than what we got from the previous thing. I didn't necessarily care for his design so much.
Yeah. I expected this and everything, so I'm not mad that we're not getting a practical suit. However, I do think that was kind of a bit of an immature response to just be like, "Ah, we're past suits. They're dated. CG's the only way to go." It's like, fuck you. Suits can still look amazing.
But like, I don't know how he said it. I'm just okay, reading.
That's fair. That's fair.
I'm just reading how, what the words that they put in front of me. So I'm just reading it.
I'm sure if I watch the actual interview, I'll be like, probably, oh, never mind.
Yeah, he's probably super chill about it, But I was thinking to myself, like, no, like maybe it is past us, but I think there's more to it than just a cosplay. It's not like we're asking you to go to a Spirit Halloween store and pick up a Thing costume to rock on set. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So. But I'm hoping that, at least based off of certain shots that we get in the movie, maybe there will be some practical elements, even if it's an upper torso and they just need like a back shot or something. But we'll see how it winds up playing off. But as long as the design itself is pretty cool that they come up with for motion capture, I think it should be okay. I mean, look what they've been able to do with Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, right? I mean, that's probably like motion capture at its finest, along with what they did with Lord of the Rings, even though that stuff was years ago. We've definitely grown since then.
Yeah.
But yeah,
and
guys,
I mean, even within Marvel, we can look at examples that they've done, right? Like looking at Thor Ragnarok with Korg. That was his name, right?
Yeah, Korg. Even Hulk, She-Hulk.
Yeah, exactly. So, I think a character like the Thing shouldn't be too difficult, assuming that they are actually giving their CG artists time to work on it this time, unlike kind of like the issues with past Marvel movies recently.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, this movie's due in about like a year and a half, so we'll see how the VFX shots certainly look. But yeah, guys, those are our honorable mentions for today. So feel free to comment on anything that we certainly talked about. Ram Jam, he says, I used to collect Yu-Gi-Oh cards back in the day, had a binder collection. Damn.
Oh yes.
Invested. We also got Marcelino in the house. What's up, Marcelino? Hey guys, I've been listening to Cupid by 50/50 all day. I love that song. Also, my question might be a little long today. We'll appreciate the heads up on that. I don't think I've heard of Cupid by 50/50. So maybe I'll put that on my YouTube music later. Geek Ledger, what's up, Geek Ledger? He says, I told my girlfriend multiple times that if I ever say the phrase "your mom called," that means get out now and get the police, because her mom has passed away years prior. Hey,
that is okay. I should do that with my girlfriend. The two of us need to come up with a phrase like that we know if we hear, okay, that's an emergency.
Yeah, genius, bro. Genius. Yeah. I like the way you guys think. All right, but with that out of the way, let's go ahead and kick this off, Stuart. You ready to go ahead and get to some main topics with me, man?
Always.
Let's go ahead and do it. First topic. Look, we're going to go ahead and kick off with the big news this week. Happy birthday, Superman. As it was, in fact, Superman's birthday, along with the start of production for the brand new Superman movie. So a lot to certainly look forward to here this week. So much so that good old James Gunn was back in the news, as he had to go ahead and certainly give us a little bit of a tease. I think we were kind of all hoping that we would get something from James Gunn this week. We weren't quite sure exactly exactly what we would get. But he did not disappoint, Stuart, as we officially wind up getting ourselves our very first look at the brand new Superman emblem for the very first time. He had been kind of teasing it. I think we even had a picture from Isabel Mercade a week ago or so when they did their table read that kind of got Twitter up in a storm about what the Superman logo might look like. As Isabel Mercade did showcase, it was very much sort of Kingdom Come influenced. And James Gunn certainly backed that up here this week with giving us a brand new look at it. Not quite the Man of Steel S that you guys remember, but I'm sure still it probably signifies hope. But at the end of the day, this is in fact at least a little bit of a tease of what I would assume would be the Superman costume itself, Stuart. So yeah, right off the bat, let's go ahead and dive into that aspect of things. What are your thoughts about the suit? For those of you who don't know, I did talk about this earlier this week. I did go ahead and make my own individual video to highlight it. It's only about 5 minutes long if you guys want to go ahead and check it out after today's show, but you can definitely find it over on our YouTube channel. But those were my thoughts. I wanted to know your thoughts, Stuart. I didn't think it was too bright. I didn't think it was too dark. I really love the design personally. But what are your thoughts when you see this? I think you're muted.
My bad. I wanted to say, man, we see so little and so much at the same time. I love this because not only does it reveal that, yes, we got like the Kingdom Come looking logo, just instead of the black, it's the yellow, which I like, kind of reminds me of Brandon Routh at the very end of Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 5. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful design. But not only do I love the logo, I love the texture of this. I don't know too much about costume designs, especially when it comes to different fabrics, that kind of stuff that people use when it comes to making costumes. All I know is that I know a good costume when I see it, and I know a good good material when I see it. And I think what I've seen so far from just this chess piece, I can already tell that I'm probably going to love this suit. I am very curious about one big aspect of this suit though. Do you think we will have the trousers or not?
I don't know, man. I don't know. That's always like the number one question, right? Trousers or no trousers. I'm cool without the trousers personally. I'm just comic book design wise. I think it really works for just a modern take on Superman. But it's like, how can you pass up the trunks at the same time? Like, I think some people would really get up in arms if Superman didn't have any trunks. But I don't know. But I would agree with you in the sense that the texture of it looks great. Not to take anything away from the previous Man of Steel design, because a lot of people really loved how they included all the little S's,
Mhm.
into making it and making it feel quite alien, if you will. I don't want to say this doesn't quite feel like as alien as the Man of Steel one. I don't. Then again, at the same time, I don't know if Clark Kent's in the Forces of Solitude with the sewing machine putting this together either. But I do dig the design and the texture look of it for sure. And I think what also stands out to me too is that this might be the first time that we get a Superman logo, and correct me if I'm wrong, that has the yellow outline to it also.
Oh,
Because
you might be right,
because you
actually. I
you can clearly see like the red S itself is the crest of the shield, but it also on the outside it does look like it's going to be and covered, or at least the outline is going to be yellow as well, with the clear red Superman S in the middle. So it does look like we're going to get a little bit of a yellow outline on the outside, and I don't know if that's been done before, because they usually have always utilized the red S as sort of that outline for a Superman costume. Am I wrong from some of the past costumes you're looking at?
Yeah, I'm looking at Christopher Reeves and Henry Cavill. They don't have it. I know Tyler Hoechlin definitely didn't have it, and I'm pretty sure. Let me just look up one more. Let me look up Brandon Ralph real quick. Um,
Because I think that in and of itself will really help it stand out from some of the past logos that we've seen before also.
Yeah, none of the Brandon Routh Superman suits had it either. So yeah, this is the first. Okay, I do like that. I do like that they're also trying to go for something different from all the other previous adaptations.
Yeah, I think it'll make it pop for sure off of against the blue suit as well. But yeah, I definitely agree. He also mentioned in some of his James Gunn also did mention that one of his inspirations for the suit design was from Alex Ross, who we already know was most notably known for his time in the Kingdom Come Elseworlds miniseries, written by Mark Waid. Alex Ross doing the painting work for it also. You could definitely see it with just the S design as well. I mean, look at this. Usually, we've always had this sort of traditional Superman logo. Like you can clearly see like the curves of the S, if you will, on the outsides and on the especially the bottom part with that little bubble at the bottom of the S. This one feels like it's going to be very much in tune with being a part of the shield as well. But I think it looks great, man. I think it looks great from just the tease.
Yeah. I do have one last take that I want to say in terms of
Awesome.
whether or
Yeah.
not we get the trousers. Let's bring up the logo one more time.
Yeah.
Because
I got
I
you.
think we are not getting him. And the reason is because the only
Hmm.
reason he wore him in the first place was because of the fact that most superhero costumes were based on strongman suits. And so that's why you had the trousers, because you kind of needed them because they were really, really skin tight. But because we see that the texture of this isn't really, it doesn't look like it's,
Ah.
tights to me. I don't think the trousers would make much sense on this suit personally. But then again, it might be an aesthetic thing. Like it probably would look cooler to have more colors popping out. So if that's the reason they go for, that would make sense. But if we're looking at practical reasons, it wouldn't make too much sense practically for him to wear it, to my opinion.
I mean, you might be right. I mean, that texture does. I don't want to say not as flexible as I would expect it to possibly be, and you would think maybe with that case you would get some trunks. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm kind of curious when the full reveal of the costume is certainly going to be shown to us. We do have San Diego Comic Con coming up later on this year. I don't know if we have a DC fandom that we're going to get towards the later half of the year or not. But with filming beginning, I got to assume maybe at the end of production, maybe when production winds up wrapping, maybe they'll let us see the full picture. But I do want to go ahead and bring up an article here from Entertainment Weekly that did have some information for us from James Gunn himself when he actually did reveal this information to us. So it says Superman Legacy reveals the first glimpse of the new suit, and it gets an updated title, y'all. This is a brand new piece of information. If you missed it here this week, it says Hollywood's next incarnation of Superman has officially taken flight, albeit with a new title. Director and DC Studios co-head James Gunn officially announced filming has begun on 2025's Superman Legacy, which stars David Corenswet as the Man of Steel, Rachel Brosnahan as ace reporter Lois Lane, and Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor. The news comes with the first look at the title hero's suit, as well as a new title of the movie. So this is what James Gunn himself said. He says, overjoyed to be announcing the start of principal photography on Superman today, February 29th, which just so happens to be coincidentally and unplanned Superman's birthday. He said, when I finished the first draft of the script, I called the film Superman Legacy. By the time I locked the final draft, it was clear the title was Superman, making our way to you July 2025. So he officially drops the legacy and he officially announces it as Superman. And I think he also attached one of this. I don't know if this is something that was passed along when it comes to like the cast and crew, but this literally looks like it's a piece of paper that was folded and unfolded. So I don't know where we wind up getting this image from, but I do believe it was from James Gunn. I'm really hoping that this ends up being the teaser poster for the movie, to be quite frank with you. But it does say Superman at the bottom and then the release date of the film. So he officially drops Legacy. How do you feel about that, Stuart? The idea of it not being Superman Legacy anymore, just Superman.
Honestly, I thought Legacy was a weird title to begin with to have for a very first movie in a new franchise. And
I
since
get
this
you.
is supposed to be like a reboot to the universe, it didn't really make as much sense to me. But I like it just being called Superman because everyone knows who Superman is. They're going to see that name and be like, okay, yes, Superman. And Yes, I love. I don't know if this is a real teaser poster or not, but
Yeah, I don't know either.
it is a perfect teaser poster, to my opinion.
Yeah, I don't think it's a teaser poster. I think this might just be like a promotional material that maybe is going around on the set or whatever the case may be. But if anything, I would love for this to be turned into an actual teaser poster for the movie. Quite frankly, this is something that I think would look great on my wall. I'm not gonna lie. I
Yes.
think it'd make for a great poster. But yeah, look, I didn't mind the name Superman Legacy. It felt a little bit catchy to me, but I think you are right in the sense of like, and plus I do think with James Gunn talking about the idea that, Superman's already going to be established. He is kind of already in the early beginnings of his Superman tenure. And when I think of Superman Legacy, I think of like a character that's been around for a while already. That's had sort of a huge impact on the world, and the legacy being like the heroes that maybe have been birthed since his showcasing himself sort of to the world. But if he's still kind of in his infancy as Superman, I can get the idea of James Gunn, continuing to write, continuing to tighten up the script and realize, yeah, this movie solely should be just titled Superman. And for those of you who are confused, I believe the Christopher Reeves film was titled Superman the Movie, if I'm not mistaken. So there is definitely a distinction from the Christopher Reeves to this particular film, and I love that it's in all caps too. I think it just showcased that this is very much a Superman movie. So I'm digging it, man. I'm digging it. I'm okay with a name change for sure. I'm trying to see if there's anything else that he revealed. No, I think that's pretty much all that he revealed. The new name of the film, along with the actual logo and emblem itself. But yeah, guys, I want to know your thoughts when you see this emblem. How do you feel about it? And also over on Twitter, I think Adam Halkov. I can't remember his name. Damn it. I hope he's not watching, just because I want him to watch, but I hope he's not watching. He went ahead and put together sort of like this casting announcement of showcasing everybody that's officially sort of in the film, that was at least at the table read that we saw in last week's group photo that James Gunn wind up showcasing us. He even had time to go ahead and update the logo itself to Superman. You can even see a little bit of the yellow outline as well. I think it's really gonna pop on this suit, man. I'm really looking to see like what the cape looks like, how it's attached to the suit, sort of thing. But yeah, I think the trunks or no trunks is definitely on everybody's mind at this point. But there is. Oh, you got something, Stuart?
Just that reminds me, like, James Gunn did a post on Twitter back when it was still called Twitter, and he was like asking, "What do you guys prefer, trunks or no trunks?"
Yeah, he
And
did ask that, didn't he?
yeah, and I guess everyone assumed that this was going to determine the outcome of the movie, but he did correct people and saying, "No, no, no, this was for fun. This will not. This has nothing to do with how we're going to design the costume in the movie. This is just something I did for fun."
Yeah, he definitely has to let people know before they get a little bit ahead of themselves for sure. Let me see here. I mean, and people have been having fun with the idea of designing sort of their own Superman logos and things like that. Let me go ahead and pull this down real quick. I saw this on Twitter the other day. Somebody put together like a reveal suit in their own way, which I thought was pretty badass. I kind of dig that, Stu.
Yeah.
I kind of dig that. But yeah, just a little bit of a tease in regards to that sort of thing. But we were just talking about the cast, and the reason why we were talking about the cast too is even though that is the majority of the complete cast, this past week we actually got a brand new another casting that needs to be added to this, because there was one gentleman that certainly was missing. That especially if you're talking about Clark Kent, Lois Lane, Jimmy Olsen, we can't forget Perry White, the boss of the Daily Planet. And we wind up getting the new casting announcement, which I think this is just look. I have never questioned James Gunn's casting choices when it comes to this movie. This is probably the best casting choice that we've honestly had out of all of this. Wendell Pierce, cast as Perry White in James Gunn's Superman exclusive. You guys probably recognize him from The Wire. He's been in a ton of other movies and other television series, but I absolutely love this, especially coming fresh off of Lawrence Fishburne's role as Perry White in the Man of Steel movies, and then the Zack Snyder stuff. I don't know who they wind up getting for Perry White in Smallville. Did they ever show a Perry
Oh,
White? Not Smallville. I'm sorry. In Superman and Lois, did they have a Perry White in that show?
oh wait, did they? I think they yes, they did, but I barely remember what he was like. I do love who they had for Perry White in Smallville though, because it was Saul Goodman's brother from the show Better Call
Ah,
Saul.
oh, nice. Okay, okay, perfect, perfect. But now we got Wendell Price, Wendell Pierce in this role. Says Wendell Pierce, perhaps best known for his work as detective on HBO's seminal crime series The Wire, has been cast as the iconic editor-in-chief of the Daily Planet. The new feature based off DC's character began rolling in Atlanta on Thursday. I think that's pretty much all they say about him. But yeah, another nice. He's also Pierce was also most recently seen in the Amazon series Tom Clancy's Jack Ryan, where he played Clancy mainstay character James Greer. He also did a stint on Star's Power Book 3, Raising Canaan. And so yeah, definitely a formidable actor in his own right for sure. So one I'm looking forward to, man. I think they've been doing a really great job with these casting choices, to be quite frank with you.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, everything I've seen, they got a solid cast put together. I think my only and I say concern, not complaint, because I want to wait till the movie comes out before I make my final thoughts on this. My only concern is just the four. Yeah, they've gotten like four other heroes not Superman related, and so I'm just hoping James Gunn's true to his word that they actually are very important to the plot. So I just wonder how you fit them in, but still making it Superman's movie. You know what I mean?
No, absolutely. I definitely know what you mean. Yeah, we'll see if the focus continues to stay centered on the Man of Steel or not. But yeah, I was trying to find some other really great Superman stuff on my Twitter log, but I'm not able to find any at the moment. But we'll always come back to it, I'm sure, as we continue to keep you guys updated throughout the week.
Oh,
Oh,
okay,
here we go.
that's right. He was the one that gave Clark the tour of the Daily Planet in the first episode. That's right.
Um, you know what? I got one more image since we're talking about the cast. Mr. Terrific is getting in shape, bro. I don't know if you've seen this, but this was on Twitter also. A post from Eddie Gatheji, and I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing his name incorrectly, but he says 4.5 months ago, I lovingly refer to myself as Doughboy. I was carrying a lot of grief, some of it in the form of subcutaneous fat pockets in my midsection, and was probably in the worst shape of my life. Look at this dude. Look at this dude.
Wow.
Look at this dude.
Wait, go back up, like literally just from the neck, or go like so we're only seeing like his face.
Oh yeah, like that.
Yeah, okay, because like looking at his face, I was expecting a fit body. I was not expecting a bulk body though.
Bro,
Holy crap! And then you
my
scroll
man.
down, it's just like, damn.
My man is hitting the gym for sure. He says, then God gave me a challenge that would force me back to my passions. I'm proud of where we are today, and none of it possible without Michelangelo fitness, yada yada yada. Mr. Terrific reporting for duty. Yeah, bro. I mean, my man is taking this as serious as he possibly can. I cannot wait to see what he's gonna look like as Mr. Terrific. So everybody's bringing their A game, man. Everybody's taking this really seriously. Rachel Brosnahan even just teased over on TikTok a quick video of her, Nicholas Holt with his bald head, David Corn Sweat also in one video together with the John Williams Superman in the background. There's a lot of really good energy happening right now on the Superman Legacy set, man. So I'm looking forward to this. I'm really am. I think my hype machine continues to build every single time. And you know what it is, Stuart, is I trust James Gunn. I trust James Gunn. I personally feel like the movies that we've seen, especially his comic book movies, I personally wasn't the biggest fan of Guardians of the Galaxy 2, to be quite honest with you. But the first one, the third one, which came in at over $800 million, probably one of the better MCU films that we've had, especially in the latest phases. I really enjoyed his work on things like the Suicide Squad. I found it pretty hilarious. And honestly, the idea that this man was capable of bringing Starro the Conqueror to life on the big screen just blows my mind, that if anybody can pull that off, it's James Gunn. And so the level of creativity how big of a nerd that he is and love for these characters, I think we're going to have some deep cuts, some really great interactions between some of our superheroes in here. And the idea that we're coming into a world that's already fully established with heroes that are already in this world. There is a fantasy like aspect going back to the idea of, him playing with the concept of secret identities and stuff. I think there's just so much to really look forward to that I think James Gunn and the rest of this cast are going to have a blast doing. And so I continue to be eager for this film, man.
Same.
Let's see what we got here in regards to some comments from you guys. Let's see here. Moriba says happy birthday, Soups. Absolutely, man. 14 years until your first appearance becomes public domain. That's right. I forgot about that. He is coming. It's going to be happening pretty soon. He says, I just want to know whether or not there's trunks for sure. Marcelino says, please no trousers. I never liked it, and I don't understand why people love it. They might as well say that they love the Batman nipples. Schumacher's Batman nipples.
Hey, I didn't like the bat nipples in Batman Forever, but I didn't mind them in Batman and Robin because I don't care what people say. That movie's hilarious, and I think having the bat nipples really just like adds to the comedy for that. Yeah, I like Batman and Robin a lot more than most people, but mostly because I don't look at it as a Batman sequel to all the other Batman movies that came before it. I look at it as a spiritual sequel to the Adam West Batman and Robin.
I can see that
show would have looked like with a budget.
That's a good comparison for sure. Geek Ledger, I personally think trunks trousers can work. I think the best Superman costume put to live action is Brandon Routh's Kingdom Come costume from the CW Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover. Yeah, man, I think that blew us away that they were even tackling that sort of costume on a CW show, but for sure. Mm-hmm. Moriba says, I heard Gunn will release it himself before they begin outdoor filming. I'm assuming maybe the suit itself, which would make sense to a certain extent, especially, the cameras are going to be all over that place when it comes to them filming outside. I got to assume this, people with these extremely great zoom lenses for sure, trying to capture every little shot.
I would love it. Oh my God. If the very first photo of Superman was a photo from James Gunn's phone and just the way he took it made it look like it was leaked.
Let's see here. Geek Ledger says Jim Lee did comment on DC fandom last year. He said DC fandom was a one-time thing due to the pandemic. He said DC plans on attending San Diego Comic-Con this year. I think it's a little bit of a bummer. I mean, I not to say that I don't want them at SDCC. I absolutely do. But I do think that there's something cool about ownership, right? And like the idea of like, this is our material only. Let's just take an hour or two. It doesn't even have to be all weekend. Just like one day, I think of presentations would really go a long way just for like online fans. Because I had a pretty good time. Because didn't they do it twice? I think they did it twice, right?
They did it twice, but there was just like nothing to announce the second time, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, second time was a little bit of a letdown. I agree.
But the first one was like great because they had like not only like a crap ton of announcements, but it was also going on while like, there was the pandemic but we still had all the CW shows that were still released at the time. So man, yeah, that was like a perfect time for DC fandom when that first one hit.
Yeah, it was like gold, man. I was so happy they did it. Geek Ledger, I saw Legacy as a placeholder title, so I never was attached to it. Same with Woman of Tomorrow and Brave and the Bold. I think they'll get their actual titles closer to production. Yeah, I could see Superman Legacy more like as a working title, but not the official title. Although I will say, Woman of Tomorrow and the Brave and the Bold, I really want those as official titles.
I agree with Woman of Tomorrow. With Brave and the Bold, I want them to kind of reserve that for specifically crossover movies, because that's what it was used for in the comic books. But I also won't mind. It won't be a deal breaker, obviously, if they stick with it.
Yeah, no, I totally get you. I'm trying to see what else we got. Geekler says, I know this would never happen, but kind of hope the final scene of Superman and Lois is Clark and the fam on the farm and Supergirl lands in the cornfield and it's Melissa Benoist. That'd be pretty cool. I would love to see Melissa Benoist back in the costume at least just one more time.
Yes. While I don't see Melissa Benoist coming back, just because she, I think from what I hear, she's busy both with Broadway and she has like her own production studio that she's running, or not studio, but production company that she's running. We could, if they wanted to do kind of, because it being an alternate universe, so maybe she didn't arrive on Earth until later. They could do something where they get the actress that played the young version of Kara and have her be the one to land on the farm.
That would be interesting. I wonder how old she is now. Um, but because I remember we saw her in like the final season of Supergirl, if I'm not mistaken. I think they did like a two-parter in that final season. But that would be pretty a nice, interesting twist for sure.
Mhm.
But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts on all the big announcements from the Superman film by James Gunn. What do you guys think of the logo itself? What do you guys think of the new title? Definitely go ahead and let us know your thoughts in the comment section box below if you're watching this after this airs. But with that out of the way, Stuart, let's move on to our next topic, man. And the next topic that we're going to get into today, we're going to go ahead and transition from DC over to Marvel. Actually, what I'm messing up these damn titles down here. Captain America 4 is back in the news today. We got ourselves a nice little update for you guys in regards to one of the villains and some rumor and speculation about this upcoming film. Now, look, when it comes to the MCU, while I've enjoyed some of the content that we've gotten out of the MCU, a lot of the stuff maybe recently hasn't hit as much as the previous phases for Marvel Studios, but I still think that we have some winners in there for sure. But people have been certainly very vocal about it, at least when it comes to Twitter, in regards to the idea of them really wanting Marvel Studios to kind of change pace a little bit, switch things up, if you will, really focus on quality over quantity. It's something that we've heard even Bob Iger himself certainly talk about. Kevin Feige has come out and mentioned it, the idea as well, that maybe they might slow down and do some things when it comes to Marvel Studios. And to be fair, when it comes to the strikes that we just recently had this year, whether it be the actor strike, the writer strike, I do think that it's given Marvel the opportunity to kind of sit back and rethink and sort of replan some of the things as to what they want to do with their upcoming phases, especially with the controversy certainly surrounding Jonathan Majors and his court cases that he has certainly been having. So Marvel Studios right now is very much sort of scrambling. And as we talked about last week, more or less retooling, if you will, bringing in new writers, especially for Captain America. I think they even brought in additional writer for the Fantastic Four to really clean things up, tighten up the script. And as fans, if you certainly want changes, I think this is a great sign that Marvel Studios is at least listening. And so when it comes to Captain America 4, though, it does seem as though they are really kind of taking not only a scalpel to the script itself, but if I'm not mistaken, I do believe we have extensive reshoots that are set to go ahead and happen later on this summer, sometime in July or in August. But one of the things that I wanted to bring up, Stuart, this week is I think we sometimes forget who the villain for Captain America 4 is, Brave New World, because I remember when it was announced, it really kind of surprised me. But it is, in fact, going to be the leader from the Incredible Hulk movie that we saw, as Tim Blake Nelson wind up transforming into the leader at the end of the Incredible Hulk movie. And we have not seen this man since. But this week, he actually had the opportunity to sit down with comicbookmovie.com and gave us a little bit of an interview talking about his upcoming transformation. So I thought this was a pretty interesting one to get into, Stuart. So we'll get into that, and then we'll get into some of the rumors that we're certainly hearing out there. So again, this one comes to us from comicbookmovie.com. Says Captain America Brave New World star Tim Blake Nelson teases his transformation into the leader. This is an exclusive interview from them. He says, Tim Blake Nelson is a screen icon who has racked up a long list of impressive credits across film and television. However, his latest project, Asleep in My Palm, sees the actor deliver one of his best performances to date. He says, however, we have a good fortune of speaking with the actor. We asked about his return as Samuel Stearns, aka the leader in Captain America Brave New World next year. Nelson first played the character way back in 2008's The Incredible Hulk, with his final scene teasing a transformation into the iconic baddie from the comics. I think, wasn't his head like bubbling or something, or like growing? So it was pretty trippy, huh?
Yeah, started bubbling to tease it, and then he had that smile, like, "Oh, I'm back and I'm bad and I'm happy about it."
Was it the Abomination guy like injected him with like a bunch of the serum, if I'm not mistaken?
No, was that the, serum? Like, it was because the military started shooting at the building, and so, like, it caused an explosion with which caused a bit of the serum to leak into a cut that was on his head, and then
Mm,
that's what, like, led to it, starting
that's what it
to
was.
yeah.
That's what it was. So he says he hasn't been seen since, though a tie-in comic later revealed he was taken into Shield custody by Black Widow. I wonder if they'll introduce that as an actual canon for the movie itself.
Because they've had a couple of tie-in comic books with Marvel, but from what I remember, those tend to get like retconned later on. Because obviously, yeah, they're not going to hold it to the movie writers to like kind of keep up with that continuity. So I look at the tie-in comics as being like just a slightly separate universe from the Marvel universe, kind of like Agents of Shield.
Yeah, I get you on that. He says we expect him to be we expect him to be Captain America Brave New World's big bad, and he confirmed during our conversation that he'll be rocking what sounds like a comic accurate look as the leader. He says, really excited. I had a great time filming it, and I worked with the Marvel team and this wonderful makeup artist named David Atherton, with whom I've collaborated on a dozen movies now. I think people are going to be pretty excited about what this guy looks like and what he has to say and what he does. All power to the amazing team over at Marvel. It says we'd hope Nelson might go green for his MCU return, and while that's yet to be officially confirmed, it sounds like practical effects will bring the villain to life rather than CGI, an intriguing and welcome development.
Mhm.
So yeah, I do find that pretty interesting. I mean, the fact that you are talking about a wonderful makeup artist, that he's excited to see what this guy is going to look like, what he has to say, I think is pretty important, and what he does. I think is going to be pretty appealing, man. Do you think we're going to get? Look, we just talked about the idea of the Thing, right? We wanted a practical suit for the Thing, and that doesn't look like it's certainly going to happen. What do you think we might get here when it comes to the leader? Do you think it might be a mixture of both, or with him mentioning a makeup artist, you think there's going to be some practicality to it?
Him mentioning a makeup artist, I think that there might be a mixture of both. I really hope because this isn't really like the hardest kind of costume to make, to my opinion. I mean, obviously, I don't work in the makeup industry, but I feel like I've seen really good prosthetics with a very similar thing that they were going for. Like, here's an easy example: the cone heads. An SNL
Ah,
sketch that was later turned into a movie. It was a comedy, and yet I think the practical effects for them look totally fine. So if they want to go with something similar to that with the leader, I think, especially with nowadays how makeup just gets better and better over time, I don't think it'd be too hard to pull off. So I kind of hope it's practical for this one.
yeah, I'm kind of hoping that it is also. I really want to. I think the idea of cone heads was great, great comparison there. Even though like, those heads are a little bit too big for me, honestly, but I do think that they could probably pull something off here with a practical makeup.
Yeah, sorry, that wasn't me trying to say that I want to look like the Coneheads. I'm just
Oh yeah,
saying,
no, no,
like,
no,
I
no.
think that if you could pull it off back then, pulling off the leader should be no problem today.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you in that regards for sure. So I'm hoping it's a little mixture of both. I'm pretty sure they'll definitely give us some. I really do think there's going to be a practical aspect to this. I mean, they really don't. They can just give him a suit that he's got to rock. If anything, it's just a gigantic headpiece that they could probably make work for this. But I am also fascinated in the idea that he's excited for people to hear what he has to say. And it does make me wonder, just based off of the leader being the one that's technically like smarter than everybody else. I am curious what other aspects of like power set the leader has. It's been a minute since I've actually even looked up any of his bio. Can you look that up real quick for me and see like
Mhm.
what some of the power set is for the leader? Does he have like the ability? I don't know. I wouldn't say mind control, but like persuasiveness. And if that is the case, I would be interested to kind of see, like, especially the especially just the mind frame, or the mindset, I should say, that I think the current MCU is in after the blip, right? From what we remember from Falcon and the Winter Soldier, there's a lot of displacement kind of going on. I would be curious about who our current leader, if you will, no pun intended, um, like what they have to certainly say about um the situation that they find themselves in. Like, is he going to use that as an opening for him to sort of maneuver his way into a bigger role of influence? Is he going to have a louder voice than other people to maybe convince those in this particular world to either follow him or revolt or push back against um, the government that we know of as today, sort of thing? Like, I am kind of curious if he's gonna have like some really great monologues and some really convincing speeches to then maybe turn the population against each other, or whatever the case may be. Because I do think when you got somebody like a Captain America, not to say that the leader's going to be like a current modern day fascist or anything like that, you know what I'm saying? But to be able to have that type of power of maybe him being the smartest person in the room, him being persuasive, knowing how to manipulate people, sort of thing. I do think that's a pretty formidable foe to go up against if you're Sam Wilson, aka Captain America. Oh, are you muted?
Totally forgot I muted myself.
There you go.
Yeah. So yeah, I agree. First of all, I agree with everything you said. I do think, especially with, okay, bad show, but I think what they set up could actually work in favor of this movie. But when we got like Secret Invasion, now we're in a state where people in the Marvel universe are probably at a huge panic, especially with each other, not being able to trust each other. And panic always leads to, violence and just irrational thinking. So I think this is the perfect time to have a villain like this, a villain who only thinks in logic, and one that you could even have like agreements with in the beginning. Like at first you're like, oh, this guy actually makes some really good points. Maybe he is trying to do good. And then of course, by the time we get to the third act comes that reveal of, oh yeah, we're not stopping here. We're going to keep going until we have full control over everything. It's that idea of his intentions were in the right place initially, but he takes it too far. Because here's the big thing. I think that no matter how intelligent you are, in fact, I actually think the more intelligent you are, the more susceptible, wow, sorry, that's a weird word to say, susceptible you are to making stupid decisions, because the smarter you are able to justify your dumb decisions, the smarter you are. So it also means like if you are smart and you have like a lot of money, you're able to make really, really dumb decisions that could be incredibly dangerous for a lot of people. And I think that's the kind of villain they could totally be playing with. And those who are trying to say that I'm maybe trying to say something about real life people, you might be right, so I think there's room for social commentary right there if they wanted to. They don't have to, but it's definitely a possibility. But that all to be said, too much intelligence and too much power can be a very dangerous thing, even if you have the right intentions. And hearing that this guy has something to say in this movie, I mean, I know that sounds very generic, but I assume he wouldn't have said that if it didn't actually mean something in the context of, something to say, as in something that is like important, impactful, or something like that. If you get the right writer behind this, I think we could be looking at a really good MCU villain, which we haven't had in quite a minute, I don't think.
Yeah, and I think that's what really stuck out to me. I try, and whenever I read interviews, I definitely try and point out just things that they say that kind of jump out at me, and that was one of them. I mean, the fact that he went out to say that he really wants people to hear what he has to say, I think that goes a long way in what his influence might be in this particular movie. So I don't know. I think we might be onto something there. And I think the idea of something like social commentary is always important in a movie, especially if you wanted to hit audiences. And I think something like Falcon and the Winter Soldier kind of did a little bit of that, especially with the Black Captain America, and seeing how Sam Wilson could certainly relate to him and learning about his past and things like that. It is social commentary like that I would like to see, especially in a Sam Wilson Captain America film, kind of really brought to the forefront. And even in the finale of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I really love the monologue that Anthony Mackie gave to Sam Wilson, because to me, despite all the action and seeing him flying around and throwing the shield and his little training montage and stuff, like aside from that, I think Sam Wilson's impact came with just his words and what he had to say to those in charge, whether it be the police officers, the government, the senators, and things like that. That's the type of stuff that really resonated with me coming from Sam Wilson himself. So I think a moment like that will really separate himself from Steve Rogers for sure. But we'll see. We'll see how this villain goes. Again, it's a villain that I was not expecting to be as the main villain for a Captain America film. But if they pull it off right, I think they can have something really special here.
Mm.
Were you able to find what his power set was by any chance?
Oh yeah, so just the most I could find is that he is incredibly smart, and he has telekinesis.
Oh, so he does have telekinesis.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. Interesting. So yeah, we definitely have made some level of mind control there for sure.
Yeah.
And I think also I'm still waiting to find out more about somebody in the comments said Geek Ledger says, I don't understand why they didn't have the president in Secret Invasion be Thaddeus Ross. Yeah, that was super weird to me. From the leaks, it seems President Ross is very similar to the president in Secret Invasion. I guess maybe they were trying to lock in Harrison Ford as Thaddeus Ross, so I guess they had to have a different character in Secret Invasion. Did the president ever die?
No, he's still alive, but I imagine if he if he doesn't get like in a lot of trouble from kind of, because I would say that at the end they kind of imply that he was kind of the cause of like all the current violence that goes on around the world, because he basically is the reason people are terrified that anyone could be a Skrull, and what leads to a lot of conspiracy theory, or not necessarily just conspiracy nuts, but like all sorts of nuts, like just randomly killing people because they might be a Skrull. It's implied to kind of be his fault for fear mongering, so I could see him being like
impeached and kicked out type of thing.
Yeah, that's the term I was looking for. Yeah, I could see him being impeached and then replaced with Ross.
Because I think that was one of my questions too. I was like, wait a minute, I thought Harrison Ford as Ross was going to be the president, but he wasn't in Secret Invasion, so it definitely threw me off for sure. Marcelino says, hopefully the leader is a better villain than Carly and the Flag Smashers, because they are criticized as the worst MCU villains. They were boring and hypocritical. Oh yeah, from the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Yeah, I didn't really care for them as the Flag Smashers. Marcelino says, the only reason I can think of in regards to Harrison Ford as Thaddeus Ross as a president is because of budget, but even that's a weak argument since it was Disney Plus show. Yeah, I think it's more storyline.
Mm-hmm. I could see it being either storyline or just Harrison Ford himself, just like not being like them not having him locked in a contract yet, still like in negotiation talks. And so probably starting off with, oh, by the way, would you like to be in the show that's going to be coming out in the next year? We need to start filming like in the next couple weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. So hopefully they have a storyline that maybe explains that, or at least explains to us how Ross became president at some point in time. So that I thought was interesting in regards to Brave New World for Captain America. But I do want to get into some rumors here, because according to comicbook.com, also Brave New World rumor reveals what Marvel Studios has planned for the Serpent Society. Apparently, according to rumors and maybe some of the insider leakers, they might have actually cut out Serpent Society out of this film.
It's like the third time now.
Right? I mean, I keep hearing things getting cut left and right. It says Brave New World is set to undergo extensive reshoots later this year, and if recent rumors are to believe, Marvel Studio plans to completely cut out Serpent Society. So far, at least 2 members of the group have been spotted filming, including Rosa Salazar from Alita Battle Angel, which I love Rosa, the current WWE World Heavyweight Champion. To leave them on the cutting room floor seems extreme, and we can only theorize that something about the society's inclusion in this movie wasn't working. We got one scooper that claims to have learned what Marvel Studios originally had planned for the villains. It said the Serpent Society consisted of Diamondback, Constrictor, Rattler, Asp, and Cobra, with all of them boasting segmented tattoos, which would spread apart to reveal cybernetic enhancements. This bit is a little vague, but the leak reveals that together they'd have made the serpent. I don't know what that means. Maybe like a gigantic weapon. I don't know.
Or
Um,
maybe they combine Megazord style.
was the whole thing too silly, or just one lot of villains too many in the movie that also includes Red Hulk and the leader? I think that might have been, if I had to guess, I would think maybe that was a little bit too much. I have a feeling that maybe they wanted this story to be a little bit more tight and a little bit more focused instead of just a bunch of additional villains. But I do think that there is an interest that I have in seeing the Serpent Society brought to life. But yeah, when you already have the leader and the Hulk, maybe you're asking for a little bit too much. It says time will tell. But in other news, Daniel Richtman, another insider, who's, I don't want to say he's fully reliable. I feel like he's pretty semi-reliable in some of the stuff that he talks about. Reports that Marvel Studios is looking for new characters to possibly replace them. I mean, if you're already removing characters, why even put additional characters in there? But
Especially if the reason is because you have too many characters as it is.
yeah, if that was one of the reasons, for sure.
Yeah.
So it's also isn't the only upcoming release scheduled for reshoots, as Deadpool and Wolverine will squeeze some in this May. So I do think it's important to emphasize for everybody here too that reshoots are relatively normal when it comes to movies in general. They usually always schedule them for reshoots. I do think that this is when it comes to Captain America 4, though, it does feel very much like we've looked at this film. I think some of the things that I've been reading is like, the test screenings haven't necessarily gone so well. So they really are kind of going back to the drawing board. I don't know how many writers they've actually had on this script so far. It says Julius Ona helms the movie from a screenplay by Malcolm Spellman, who also did Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and Dallin Musan, though the director is believed to have also taken a pass at the script. Matthew Orton, meanwhile, has written new scenes for the reshoots, which are taking place later this year. So they've definitely continued to bring people in nonstop to tighten up this film, rewrite it, and hopefully make a better film at the end of the day. So yeah, again, while reshoots are pretty normal, at least when it comes to Captain America 4, it feels very much like they just were not happy with what they've made completely, and are definitely trying to reshoot as much of the, I don't want to say as much of this film as possible, but definitely some important pieces, to say the least.
Mhm. But yeah, that's funny though, because like looking at Captain America 2, Captain America 3, like all of them were meant to have the Serpent Society as like kind of a part of the movie, and then they get cut, and now it supposedly is happening again, which I just find absolutely hilarious. I guess the Serpent Society are just cursed to never be in a Captain America movie, maybe because it would be too similar to G.I. Joe, a US military-esque type of characters taking on a snake-like group of terrorists. So maybe that's why.
We also have some comments here. Geek Ledger says, "I wonder if Hulk and She-Hulk will appear in this movie as either cameos or supporting characters, because having the leader and the Red Hulk in it, but not the Hulk, is weird." I believe Mark Ruffalo came out and he mentioned the idea that he was going to be in a film. Maybe he was talking about Thunderbolts or whatever. But whatever film that he mentioned, he quickly came back and was like, "No, no, I misspoke. I'm not going to be in the movie," sort of thing. I would agree it would feel weird to not have at least Bruce Banner in this film, even if you're not going to bring in, well, I guess you probably would have to bring in the Hulk in that regards, because if you're going to be doing like Dr. Hulk or Professor Hulk or whatever the case may be, that would feel a little bit strange to me. But what do you expect? Do you think Mark Ruffalo as the Hulk might at least pop up in here? I don't think She-Hulk will make an appearance, but I could be wrong.
I would love Mark Ruffalo's Hulk to appear in here, just you know, as kind of like the person trying really hard to reason with Thunderbolt Ross, like, hey, you don't want this serum. It's not as great as you may think, that kind of thing. And then, of course, Thunderbolt Ross doing his usual thing of being like, I'm done. Screw you, Banner. I don't care what you have to say. I don't know.
I mean, you would think that he wouldn't even dare touch it, especially after what he saw happen with the Abomination and the guy that he tried to experiment on in the Incredible Hulk, right? Like, I would think if I saw what I did to somebody like that, I wouldn't want to be the one to take it. But maybe after all these years, he still thinks that he can perfect the serum and is still trying.
I don't know. Thunderbolt Ross seems like the kind of person that never changes his mind, even if like the evidence is like right in front of him. So like if he's convinced a bullet doesn't kill someone, he seems like the kind of person that'll shoot up like an entire like place just to prove that at least one person will survive. Therefore, bullets don't kill people. I don't know. That was a weird example. I couldn't think of anything like funnier off the top of my head, so that was just the first thought. But regardless, what I'm trying to get at is Thunderbolt Ross seems like the kind of person who is stuck in whatever decision he makes. When he decides something, and I think in terms of the serum, he is going to be convinced that he can weaponize it and use it for his own purposes.
Marcelino in here says, from what I heard, Serpent Society were just in a fight scene and weren't given comic accurate suits. People are relieved they were cut since they didn't want them to be wasted like the Wrecking Crew. Yeah, the Wrecking Crew was pretty wasted in She-Hulk. But yeah, I heard that there were like 2 or 3 major fight sequences in this movie. And I think a lot of them are being reshoot, honestly. And I would assume that's the case. I mean, if you are removing Serpent Society, if they were in fact a major part in the fight sequences, then yeah, you might have to rethink your battles throughout this movie. So we'll see. Geek Ledger also says from the description, it seems like Serpent Society was maybe an opening fight sequence, like in Avengers: Age of Ultron. Yeah, an
Okay.
opening fight sequence I can kind of see, and then maybe get rid of them afterwards. Who knows? Let's see here. Who else we got?
Watch him
Kyron,
leave
what's up,
Serpent
Kyron?
Society. Retreat.
What's up, Kyron? Good to certainly see you in here, man. Thank you for certainly stopping by today. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts. How do you feel about the interview that we talked about a little earlier today with Tim Blake Nelson coming back as the leader himself? What really stands out to you in his brief comments about his role as the leader? And also the rumors here of Serpent Society being cut from Captain America 4, as extensive reshoots are set to happen sometime in July, if not in August this year. So go ahead and let us know your thoughts in the comment section box below. And with that out of the way, Stuart, let's go ahead and tackle our next topic, shall we? We're going to get into more movie and television discussions here for you guys now, as one movie that I had the opportunity to check out last night is getting itself a reboot, and that is The Crow. Now, this Crow reboot has been sort of in developmental hell for years, just very much on and off, wondering if we were ever going to see this movie give it the light of day, but it is actually happening. The movie is set to go ahead and release this June. And look, I'm sure there's some people that probably do not want this movie to be made. There's probably some people that are excited, maybe a little bit trepidatious in regards to the idea of tackling a film like The Crow. For those of you who do not know, The Crow originally released in 1994, starring Brandon Lee. I think they maybe had like a week left of filming, and unfortunately, they had the terrible tragedy of Brandon Lee being shot on set in just a terrible circumstances and dying on set as they were filming. So since then, I think they did come out with a second Crow, if I'm not mistaken, City of Angels. I believe that might have been the name of it. But since then, we have this franchise has really not gone anywhere when it comes to television or movies. And so while it certainly has been quite some time since this movie has actually been on the big screen, they are in fact taking another stab at it. And since it's releasing in June, we got ourselves a first look here this week, Stuart. I don't know if you had the opportunity. Did you check out any of these images or anything like that, or no?
Oh yeah, I saw them just like floating around all over the internet.
We have the director that was talking with Vanity Fair, who did a great little, I don't want to say photo shoot, but revealed some new exclusive images from The Crow. We're going to go ahead and talk about that interview, hear what the director himself certainly had to say about this film, and give you guys some of our thoughts. And look, if you have had the opportunity to check out the first Crow movie starring Brandon Lee, I would love to get your guys' thoughts on it and just the idea of there being a reboot in the first place. But let me go ahead and bring up some of these photos. This is, in fact, Bill Skarsgard, who is, in fact, going to be playing the lead role in this movie in his Crow look, or at least I would assume getting to the Crow look eventually. So Vanity Fair had an article. If you want to go ahead and read it for yourself, you can check out our Facebook page. We do post all of our news from the topics that we discuss here. We do post all these on our Facebook page at A Plus Opinions. Go ahead and check us out over there. But Vanity Fair says, first look, The Crow flies again with Bill Skarsgard and FKA Twigs. More than 30 years after the tragedy struck the Brandon Lee version, director Rupert Sanders launches a new incarnation. Let me see. It says, caught in the... Wait, let me see. Skarsgard steps into the role of goth rocker Eric Draven, who, along with his lover Shelley, is brutally murdered when the demons of Shelley's past catch up with them. Caught in a limbo state between the living and the dead, Eric sets out to avenge their deaths, walking the gossamer fine line between the natural world and the supernatural one. It goes on to say, this is what he says, the director, Rupert Sanders. What drew me to this was the opportunity to make a dark romance, something that dealt with loss, grief, and the ethereal veil between life and death, and reaching through that, says Sanders, whose previous credits include 2021 Snow White and the Huntsman and 2017's Ghost in the Shell. Realizing he's beginning to sound a little emo, the Brit laughs. Look, I grew up listening to Joy Division and The Cure, and this movie is a bit like a Cure song, The Beauty of Melancholy. He says Sanders knows that as The Crow heads towards his June 7th release date, much of the pre-release chatter will focus on the 1994 version starring Brandon Lee, and how could it not? It was on the set of that film that the broodingly handsome 28-year-old son of late martial arts legend Bruce Lee was accidentally shot and killed in a firearm stunt gone awry. 3 decades later, the original Crow still holds up as a stylish Marvel Studios adaptation of a graphic novel, but there's also something decidedly mid-90s about it. It says, this is Sanders again. He says, still, as much as Sanders makes clear that his new film is an entirely different take on the James O'Barr source material, he also considers it a tribute of sorts to Lee's memory. He also goes on to say, obviously, it was a terrible tragedy, and it's definitely something that we've always had in mind through the making of the film. Brandon was an original voice, and I think he will always be synonymous with The Crow, and I hope he's proud of what we've done and how we've brought the story back again. His soul is very much alive in this film. There's a real fragility and beauty of his version of The Crow, and I think Bill feels like he is a successor to that. And I'm always a big fan, honestly, of Bill Skarsgård. So I do think he's a great actor that could pull this off. So will we see more of a smitten couple before tragedy steps in to tear them apart, making Eric's quest for vengeance more emotionally resonant? As for whether audiences will buy into their romance, Sanders doesn't seem too worried. He says, I never did any tests between Bill and Twigs. I had them for dinner when they first arrived on set in Prague, and I was a bit like a nervous parent looking to see if there were any sparks, because you don't know. And they were great. They hung out and were straight into it. So, I will say I am always a little concerned, especially when it comes to chemistry, just the idea of not doing any screen tests. So that is a little bit of a red flag for me, but to be fair, when I watch something like the original Crow, it's very much spliced and edited and brief sort of moments between this couple. But I do think Brandon as Eric Draven, as the movie progresses, even though you don't really see them together as a couple, besides the brief interactions of his memories and things like that, I think Eric Draven alone, Brandon alone, does a really good job of really selling sort of the love and the connection that they had for each other. So it does make it believable as to why he wants to sort of avenge their death, if you will. So I do like that the article asks, are we going to see more of that kind of love story? And it does make me wonder if, because of how the first Crow movie went, if maybe that's why he didn't necessarily do any screen tests. Like, I do wonder how much screen time that they actually have. Like, when I look at these photos, I do wonder, like, are we going to get long, drawn out sequences, or are these sort of brief moments that we kind of see both of these actors in, if that makes sense, Stuart? Have you seen the first Crow movie?
I did. Yeah, I love the first Crow movie.
So you know what I'm referring to them by that. So are you hoping that this gets more of their romance and their relationship gets a little bit more screen time?
Yeah, to an extent, if that's what the movie wants to focus on. Because I do love movies that, kind of like romantic stories where it involves two damaged people. Not even just romantic stories, even just friendship stories, honestly, work this way. When you get two damaged people and you bring them together, and it kind of like just the two of them being damaged together kind of helps fix the two of them somehow. Because it's something that I feel like happens all the time in real life. Sometimes you just need someone who gets you, and that can honestly a lot of times help you help both of you become better people over time. So I hope we get that in this, because it mentioned the demons of her past being what comes back to haunt them today. And
Mhm.
so if we have two damaged characters and the two of them make each other better, like over time, I think it's just going to make it even more tragic that after all of that, suddenly everything is lost. And so it makes so much sense why he would go from being, a man recovering from his past to suddenly like going back or, making a whole another slew of bad decisions just out of pure vengeance. It's been a minute since I've seen The Crow, so I don't remember what the chemistry was like between the two main characters, or between the Crow himself and his love interest. But I definitely want to rewatch it now. Looking at these photos though, it's funny, while I was looking at these, I was also like kind of browsing, different articles like on Google, and I see that there is a lot of backlash for this, which is something that surprises me because, visually, this doesn't look that much different from the original Crow movie. I mean, if you like the original Crow, I feel like you would like this because it just feels like that, but more modernized.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. Yeah, I have been seeing a lot of backlash towards it. I can't remember if the original person that did the Crow movie might have said some comments about it or not, especially after the first look. But again, I said it before, I'll say it again. I think Bill Skarsgård is a great actor. I do think you are right. I think when I watched The Crow, there was a part of me that thought to myself, I really would like to see their relationship fleshed out a little bit more. If you take the first act of this movie, maybe not the full first act of this movie, but at least give us the sense of something like you mentioned. Maybe, he's been in a bad spot and he finds somebody that helps him become sort of a better person, and that kind of gets taken away from him because of maybe some of her clearly, like the article states, maybe her bad past coming back to haunt them, sort of thing. I could definitely see that motivation of wanting to avenge somebody. Not to say that I didn't believe Brendan Lee's character, because I do think as the movie progresses, you get the sense of what their relationship was like through how he speaks about Shelley. And so, but there was a part of me that thought to myself, even if it was just the first 10 minutes, the first 15 minutes of the movie of just real relationship and showcasing what their relationship was like, I think that really would have gone sort of a long way. And then to actually see the brutal sort of the death of the both of these two characters, I think there would be something really tragic about it, to then heighten somebody like Eric Draven and why he's doing the things that he's doing. So I'm hoping that these are not just flashback sequences. I do hope that there is some level of building their relationship out. But as far as the character look goes, I mean, I kind of dig it. I am curious if these are, I would assume these are tattoos of him, maybe that he's had his whole entire life, not the something that he's just gotten because now he's been reanimated, if you will. But I can't really tell from the photo. I'm thinking he's probably going to rock the white makeup though, and the black eyeliner and design. Are you under the same assumption?
I'm not 100% sure, but even if he doesn't, I won't be too mad. Just as long as it's shot very well, like as long as it's shot, because I mean, like the way it was done before, I feel like the makeup was mostly because, you know, movies aren't as high definition back then as they are now. So I feel like a lot
Mhm.
of ways you kind of express like certain, um, I don't know, the way you kind of like add more visuals is like you have heavier makeup, but I don't think you have to rely on that as much anymore. Now you can just have a lot of fun with lighting both during production and in post production. So I think if we don't see him in the full on white makeup, I think you could still have a really creepy looking protagonist.
Yeah, I agree. And like I feel like I've seen Bill Skarsgård get into a little bit more action these days too. So I am kind of curious to see some of the fight sequences that we might have in this movie. When I saw it, you know, I definitely got sort of that '90s Tim Burton vibe from
Hmm.
Batman mixed in with like a very early like Matrix sort of combination, like between the two, because there is a sequence when he's like picking up the guns and they're just having like this gunfight inside of one of the clubs, or the top level of one of the clubs, sort of thing. And just it just made me think of the Matrix, especially with some of Brandon Lee's little kung fu moves here and his karate moves and whatnot. So I enjoyed it. I actually really enjoyed it. I was kind of surprised. I didn't know what to necessarily expect from the film itself. The fact that we had Ernie Hudson was in this movie, that kind of blew me away. I thought he was great in here as the detective. Tony, what's the guy from that played Candyman, was in that movie too.
Oh,
Tony
Tony
Todd.
Todd, right?
Tony Todd
Yeah.
was in that movie. I was like, what is he doing in here? So some really great actors in here. And I think after watching that movie, great cinematography too. Some really beautiful images in this, in the original. It was one of those things where I walked away just thinking to myself, like, damn, like what Brandon Lee could have become. Because I thought he was great in that particular role, and it was just a travesty that we weren't going to have anything else from him after this movie. Because I think he definitely would have been a star for sure. So yeah, look, the idea of them going back, look, what's been like 30 years. I know some people are like, don't touch it because it's a cult classic sort of thing. I'm cool with the idea of them doing a reboot. Look, regardless if this movie is good or not, we can always go back to the original and enjoy that from time to time. But I don't look at this as like a trampoline on Brandon Lee's legacy. If anything, I think Bill Skarsgård is probably taking this role to heart. And as he says, there is a level of Brandon Lee that kind of lives in this movie. And I think Bill Skarsgård understands that and is taking that upon himself. So we'll see. We'll see how they can pull this off. I'm not going to say I'm rushing to theaters to certainly see it, but if I hear some pretty good things about it, maybe I'll definitely go ahead and check it out for myself. But this is the first look at the Crow reboot, y'all. I'm kind of curious to know what you guys think. What about you, Stuart? Is this a film that you would be interested in certainly checking out, or at least fascinated by it?
Oh, hell yeah. Especially with Bill Skarsgård.
Yeah,
I think, seeing him in some more recent movies that he's done, like I think the first one that comes to mind is It, when he played Pennywise. Yeah, no, I think he was a perfect choice for this movie.
yeah,
And, just looking at him in this shot, it looks like he's got like the perfect, like not overly bulk, but also definitely in shape kind of body for it, which is, very similar to what Brandon Lee was, because,
yeah.
he was a very slim dude in order to really have that flexibility for martial arts. And he has that same kind of, vibe going for him. So I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes, man. We'll definitely continue to keep you guys posted as we learn more about this film. Again, June 7th, it hits theaters. So the fact that this movie is even actually being released, I think, is an accomplishment in and of itself.
Mhm.
Um, let's see here. What are some of you guys saying about this? Marcelino says there were actually 3 Crow movies post Brandon Lee. My God. The last one actually had Tui Trang as one of the villains, who was in the Mighty Morphin Yellow. Um, Blossom says The Crow. I think I've heard of that. What was it about? Yeah, I mean, pretty much the idea of like a tragic death happens to a couple. I love how they explain it too. Um, the idea of like a crow sort of taking your soul after your death and like taking you to sort of like the afterlife sort of thing. But there are few occasions where like the death is so tragic, or there's like an unfinished business sort of mentality, that the crow actually allows you to kind of come back, like brings your soul back and allows you to kind of finish things off accordingly, if you will. And one of the lovers winds up coming back in Eric Draven to avenge the murder of his long lost love. And I thought it was pretty impactful, man. I really enjoy it. And I also like how he's not like just this angel of death. Like there is also a sense of like how he manages to affect other people's lives, right? And like challenge them, if you will, and gives them like sort of second chances in their life to do right by themselves. And so I love the idea that he wasn't just there to kill people, but he was also saving people's lives too. I thought that was a really beautiful balance that they were able to capture in that movie. So yeah, definitely go ahead and check it out if you want. It's definitely dark. It's definitely like a 1940s gothic romance superhero film, if you will. So yeah, definitely go ahead and check it out if you're interested. But definitely some blood and guts if you don't mind that type of stuff.
I think if you like Deadpool and you like a gothic aesthetic, you will love The Crow.
Just without like the quips, not
Oh yeah,
like the
yeah,
witty banter.
yeah. Without the comedy. So if you
That's
like
why
the plot of Deadpool, but you also like a gothic aesthetic, then you will like this movie.
That's why I felt it felt like a mixture of the 1990s Tim Burton Batman and like the Matrix. It was just a really weird combination, but it worked for it for sure.
Mhm.
Marcelino says, yes, the original and one of Brandon Lee's co-stars have been dissing Bill Skarsgård Crow. I mean, I like the look. I like the look, man. Nobody's seen the movie, so I don't know why they busting on movies already.
Yeah. I shouldn't be surprised. It's people are fast to jump to conclusions if it doesn't look the way they want it to look in their head, like as if they're the only ones in the world who know what a reboot of something should look like. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Marcelino says, forgot to say, Rochelle Davis also said that Bill looks like one of the bad guys that Eric is supposed to be fighting. To be fair, I think the Crow also looked like one of the bad guys that he was supposed to be fighting. I mean, the guy's in all black, wearing a trench coat. I mean, he got the weird face paint. He looked just as weird as all the other guys he was going up against. So I have no problem with it. And Moriba corrects us. He says, no, the second one had Tui Trang, which I think was the City of Angels, if I'm not mistaken. The last one had the woman who played Lana in Superman and Lois. Oh, really?
Oh,
okay.
That's
Maybe
cool.
That's kind of cool. That's a cool callback. I'll have to check that one out. I'm probably not going to check it out, honestly. Maybe I'll check out the second one, though.
Because I think, if I'm not mistaken, they're both pretty low budget straight to DVD movies.
I do wonder if City of Angels, the second one, I wonder if that actually came to theaters. But if there were additional Crow movies after that, yeah, I definitely think that those probably were straight to DVD.
Mm-hmm.
But all right, guys, let's go ahead and move on to our next topic today. They've been doing a great job lately when it comes to video game adaptations to television series. We have another one to certainly look forward to. I'm still really waiting for the God of War series from Amazon Prime. I'm really waiting for some updates in that regards. But one that we've kind of seen some images from already and have been teased about is the upcoming Fallout video game franchise coming to television. I think this is a pretty eye-opening interview that we're going to go ahead and dive into, as the Fallout TV series creator is in the news. They also did go ahead and reveal to us a brand new image. Let me go ahead and pull this up for you guys. This is the Brotherhood of Steel, as we get to see the suit of armor from the classic video game now making its way to live action. There's also another image too that I didn't download. I'll probably try and download it while we're in discussion here. But I'm really fascinated to kind of see how they're going to end up bringing this particular series to life. So let's go ahead and dive into this brand new article that we have here. as Jonathan Nolan, I believe, who was the director, the executive producer, and maybe creator of this television series, talks a little bit more about it. And I think the way that he describes this series, Stuart, is what will really help make this series that much more successful. He says the article headline is this is from a Total Films website, gamesradar.com. Fallout TV creators say it's basically Fallout 5 and talk the pressure of The Last of Us success. He goes on to say, says the Fallout show isn't going to be a mere adaptation of the beloved post-apocalyptic video game series. Instead, the video game Prime series is going to have its own canonical space in the nuclear wasteland, a freeing choice that has led executive producers Jonathan Nolan to say the project is almost like we're Fallout 5. He says, from the first conversation with Todd Howard, the game director of Fallout 3 and 4, and an executive producer on the show, we were most excited about an original story, is what Jonathan Nolan states. He says, to that point, Nolan even throws out a surprise comparison to a previous adaptation in his career, the Batman Nolan films. He compares it to like The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises. He says, Fallout in my career is the closest to work we did in adapting Batman, where there's so much storytelling in the Batman universe that there's no canonical version of it. So you're free to invent your own. He goes on to continue. He says, each of the Fallout games is a discrete story, a different city, distinct protagonists within the same mythology. Our series sits in relation to the games as the games sit in relation to each other. It's almost like we're Fallout 5. I don't want to sound presumptuous, but it's just a non-interactive version of it, right? And it says Fallout, though, arrives in a different television landscape than the one it was conceived in. The Last of Us won the hearts and minds of audiences and award bodies after its 2023 debut. And now the message is clear. After a potted history, video game adaptations can be something more. And he says, now there's an expectation of, no, they can actually be great. I watched some good ones, is what the co-showrunner Graham Wagner, with a smile. In perverse way, I wish there was more snobbery so that we could have been the first. So they definitely feel the pressure a little bit, or at least the idea that, look, these series certainly can be more than just a video game adaptation. It says the Fallout is set to release on Prime Video on April 2nd. Oh, excuse me, April 12th. April 12th is the big day. So I kind of dig it, as somebody, again, and I've mentioned this before, somebody who has not played the Fallout games. I've definitely been the person that has watched a lot of people play the Fallout games, except for myself. I didn't know that necessarily Fallout was like that, in the sense that each game is sort of its own distinct story, kind of told all within that same universe. I guess there was a part of me that thought, like, from one to each one, you're following like the story of like one main character or something like that. But the fact that they clearly mention the idea that some of these stories are very much distinct protagonists that have their own sort of story that they're telling, but are told in that world. I think that really kind of opens the door, and I really dig the idea too of, we're not focusing on just one person's story here from the video games and trying to adapt that. Because one of the things that we've talked about here before, Stuart, is like the idea of, if I had the choice of adapting something or making an original story, I'm going original story all the time.
Mhm.
There's just so much weight and pressure, I think, especially people that love the video games, of, if I have to adapt somebody's story from the video game and I don't get it right, people are gonna be on my ass the entire time. This movie, you didn't put this scene from the video game into there. Like, that's just so much pressure. I do think The Last of Us does it right, but to be fair, I think The Last of Us series also takes its own liberties in certain areas as well. So they definitely took the risk in that. But I do like the idea of, if that's how Fallout video game stories are already kind of told, with each iteration being somebody else's story that you're telling with the same kind of premise, or at least with, like he says, in the same mythology, this is just prime, if you ask me, for the ability to just create your own thing, just using that mythology and building upon it and creating your own characters, your own kind of direction in which you want to go ahead and take the story, while certainly still being true to the original context of what the video game's meaning certainly was. So I think this is a brilliant way that he kind of describes it. And I think it does allow for them to take chances whenever they want to, and not necessarily feel stricken to have to tell a particular story. So I think this is a win for Jonathan Nolan. I love the comparisons in which he did with The Dark Knight, because he's right. They didn't necessarily take like a particular Batman story from the comics and bring it to life. They really went ahead and told their own stories at the end of the day, and we see how that certainly worked for it. So I think when you've got mythology as vast and as epic as something like Fallout, a great way to go ahead and make a television series. Will it pay off? We'll definitely have to wait and see. But I do think that this is a good start, if you ask me, Stuart.
Yeah, 100% agree. Because the only other show that I know of that's tried this before, and unfortunately it didn't work in its favor, and that's because, like, despite the fact that they were trying to say this fits in that video game world, they made several major changes that shows that this cannot fit in that video game world. And that was the Netflix Resident Evil TV series. It
Oh,
wasn't.
yes.
Yeah, it wasn't that it was a bad series. I actually thought it was okay, overall, but it just like it was just so weird because it almost felt like false advertising and like to a certain extent. But I'm hoping with Fallout 5, and I feel like with Fallout 5, they don't have to worry about this because the Resident Evil show used very specific lore from the video games. Whereas the Fallout 5, I feel like you don't really have to rely on that because if it takes place in a completely different town, you don't have to worry about any like merging any stories together from other Fallout games. You can just completely tell your own story in this really unique world. Also, yes, I have to give a huge shout out to that Brotherhood of Steel outfit because holy shit, game accurate and it looks so cool. These are one of those costumes I did not think could actually work in live action, but looking at this, holy crap, I have never been so happy to be proven wrong before. Looks awesome. Definitely, maybe it won't look as good in motion. We'll have to wait and see, but I'm definitely a lot more optimistic about about what the set and overall aesthetic of the show is going to look like now than I was when the show was announced. It definitely feels from listening to what the director has to say about this, or the showrunner, I should say, it sounds like we have someone who actually is passionate about the games, but also knows how to, write a good story, knows, basically actually knows how to write and isn't just making a fan film. Cough, cough, Avatar, The Last Airbender on Netflix, If you guys saw my review, you know that was like one of my biggest issues is that, yes, he finally had someone who clearly cared about the source material working on it. But unfortunately, when it came to the writing department, that was definitely the weakest point, I think, of that series. But I don't think we'll have that problem with Fallout because we have a showrunner who's actually got a little bit more experience. And we also have, from what we've seen just from those images, it seems like they have a lot more flexibility and some really cool aesthetics going for them. So everything looks good so far.
I do hope that we get ourselves another trailer here pretty soon for Fallout. I know we've gotten ourselves a teaser, I believe, already, but I am ready to see a little bit more of what the series is going to look like and be like. We did get some new images too, I think, from the Fallout series that released. The main character, Lucy. I agree. I love the
Those
aesthetics.
outfits
Yeah.
it's so accurate. I love it.
Yeah, the costumes are pretty badass. So we do have a Lucy, and they even released a brand new poster today, also kind of going back with like that was that 60s style or whatever the time period was of some of the artistic flair that they wind up having. So I always dug it. It's a blast.
Drinking a bottle of Nuka-Cola.
Yeah.
In the Fallout games, like bottle caps are basically your currency. So what was good about Nuka-Cola bottles is that you could both heal your stamina, and once you were done drinking it, you had an extra bottle cap to add to your
Hey,
currency.
nice, pretty badass. So yeah, man, some really great brand new looks from Fallout in general. So we'll see how the rest of that series goes. Did my thing freeze, Stuart? Are we still good?
We're good. Yeah.
Okay, I think my maybe my thing froze on my side. Okay, there we go.
Oh, cool.
I'm back now. All right. But yeah, guys, let us know some of your thoughts in regards to the series. What are you guys saying here? So, the Geek Ledger says, "Oh my god, my cousin just made a really bad Fallout joke. The Brotherhood of Steel in New York is called the Brotherhood of Steel." Jesus, oh god. um, oh yeah, and he also says, "Yeah, Raccoon City is a warning that accurate to the source material doesn't always work."
Yeah,
There you go,
exactly.
Stuart.
Um, yeah.
But yeah, I'm pumped for this, man. So April 12th, I believe it said on Amazon Prime. Fallout. It definitely is probably a series that maybe we'll go ahead and review for you guys here as well. But let us know your thoughts in regards to everything that you're seeing and hearing about this series in the comment section box below.
And also, okay, so I will say this, as much as I love what they're going for with it being an original story and them not wanting to just recreate something that's already been done, if they wanted to tease us by recreating that opening for Fallout 3, I would not be mad. uh
Maybe there are some levels of recreation that they will do.
Yeah. I don't know if you've ever seen like that opening, but it's like one of my all-time favorite video game openings. It's super brief, but it goes from, basically we start with like a real close-up of like a speaker. We don't know the surroundings yet, but it's the song I Don't Want to Set the World on Fire. But then as we slowly zoom out, we see, okay, we're in a bus, and then we slowly zoom out more and we see it's a destroyed, like old looking bus. And then as we zoom out even more, we see it's a complete apocalyptic wasteland. And then we end with a shot of someone from the Brotherhood of Steel walking into frame.
Yeah, that'd be a really great way, I think, to pull you into the series immediately. So maybe that's
Yes.
something that they execute for sure. All right, guys. With that out of the way, we got two more topics that we're going to break down and talk about with you guys before we get into live viewer questions. Look, the next topic that we're going to talk about, I was a big fan of the show. I enjoyed this series at least. But I definitely know it certainly got its pushbacks. Stuart, earlier this week I went onto Rotten Tomatoes to kind of see what the ratings were for Lord of the Rings: The Rings of Power. And it scored pretty high critically with critics. I think coming in at like 83% or something like that. But audiences did not like this series at all. It was like 37% rotten popcorn and shit. Like it was people did not care for this series. I definitely do not. I'm definitely not one to push back and be like those people are wrong because there are aspects of the Rings of Power that I looked at that I can see. I think especially when it comes to pacing, and I think also if you are a big Tolkien head, maybe some people would feel like, oh, this isn't as accurate to like the book source material sort of thing, and so maybe there were definitely some pushback in that regards. For me, I certainly enjoyed it. I thought it was beautifully shot. I was a really big fan of the aesthetics and just the costume designs. I really enjoyed sort of the scope of the world. And again, as somebody who is a history buff, whether that be in like real life history or just, when I think of Star Wars, like I'm a big canon and timeline head sort of thing, right? Like I love finding reasons as to why things happened, the
Hmm.
beginnings of things, what caused certain things to happen. And for me, that was always a big fascination kind of going into the Rings of Power, knowing what the third age was going to look like when it comes to the Peter Jackson, at least movies and things like that. After reading The Hobbit as a kid, even the Lord of the Rings trilogy, if you will, I was always fascinated to kind of see how we got to that particular point. And so the fact that the Rings of Power really starts here sort of in the second age, and if anything, I would assume that this will lead itself at least to end in maybe the gigantic war that we'll eventually get that was teased at the beginning of the Peter Jackson movie sort of thing. I've always wanted to see how we got there, and I thought the Rings of Power did a pretty good job in the first season to go ahead and get us to that point. I would agree some of the pacing certainly was off to me, but I will say especially the last two episodes of the Rings of Power really sort of blew me away and had me really excited for season two. But it looks like, look, even though some people didn't like it, I'm clearly one of the people that enjoyed it. And you know who else enjoyed it, Stuart? Amazon. Because in the news this week, it seems as though Amazon is certainly ready for more Rings of Power. As it looks like, according to the Hollywood Reporter, the Rings of Power showrunners sign a new Amazon deal and begin early work on a season 3. So they are hard at work for going ahead and bringing this to life. And if anything, I do think when you, after working on the first season and seeing some of the reactions that you probably got for the first season, I gotta think there's some element of, I don't want to say changing course, but at least making some sort of changes kind of going forward to maybe appeal to a wider audience. But it says Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power showrunners have struck a new deal with Amazon Studios, a potential bullish sign for the future of the fantasy series. It goes on to say Patrick McKay and JD Payne have signed a 3-year deal, which also launches their own production company. The duo wrote and executive produced season 1 of the Emmy nominated Prime Video series Rings of Power, which debuted the fall of 2022. The show stands as Amazon's most watched original series and ranked in Nelson's streaming chart top 4 every week during its initial run. I would also like to point out too, Stuart, if I'm not mistaken, I do believe the Rings of Power and the House of the Dragon came out like at the
That's
same time, didn't they?
right. Yeah, I
So,
forgot about that.
so they had some like stiff competition, especially if you're really diving into like the same sort of genre of television shows. So that to be compared to one another felt very unfair to me, but they definitely were being compared for sure. But regardless, the fact that it still managed to stay on the top 4 every week during its initial run is pretty impressive. It says the show's second season has wrapped filming and will be released later this year, while the third season hasn't officially been ordered and a writer's room has not yet opened. The showrunners have started to break the initial story outline. In addition, Amazon is planning to move the show's production hub from Bray Studios to a new production facility at nearby Shepperton Studios in the UK. This is what a head of television at Amazon says. He says, we began this remarkable journey with JD and Patrick more than 5.5 years ago and have never looked back. We continue to be amazed by the scope and the scale of their vision and the enormous global success achieved by The Rings of Power in its record-breaking first season. We can't wait for Prime Video customers to experience the epic adventure and high stakes that JD and Patrick are continuing to build throughout season 2 and beyond. Naturally, the studio is thrilled to extend our overall deal with these brilliant creative minds as they continue to deliver on their passions for great storytelling. They have previously teased their season 2 plans, going behind the scenes, asked what they've learned since the first season that they applied to the second, and they said that could be an answer that takes an hour. The entire making of this show has been a massive learning experience for everyone involved. McKay added that the aim of season 2 was to be bigger and better on every level by an order of magnitude. The bar has to keep going up. So it looks like they're definitely putting the pressure on themselves to go ahead and sort of maintain the success that the first season had. If anything, I think I'm going to be fascinated to see what the viewership is going to be like coming in for season 2. Because despite the celebration of like, hey, we were one of the most watched shows in Amazon history, yada yada yada. I am curious as to how viewership might have tailed off towards the end of the season, and if audiences didn't necessarily care for the show so much, will that same audience that was clearly enthusiastic and happy about diving into this world for the Rings of Power, are they going to come back? Right? Are they going to come back and give this show sort of a second opportunity? I don't want to say it reminds. I don't think it was as I think maybe if there is a comparison, and I feel like this still might be an unfair comparison, is like the Halo series, right? Like a lot of expectations into it, a lot of people looking forward to it. I don't know what the response was to like the first episodes of it, but people clearly weren't that thrilled about it. And come in the second season, right? Like all we've heard about is this second season so much better, guys. You got to give us another opportunity. Come back. It's bigger, it's better, it's bolder sort of mentality. And I do wonder if they've managed to acquire some of those audiences back or not. And that's kind of what I'm going to be looking forward to when it comes to the Rings of Power. Can the idea of a second season really draw people back in. If you hear from the showrunners, like, look, we've learned a ton from this. Our objection is to get bigger and better, and the stakes continue to get higher each and every season. I think it might have to be a wait and see mentality. But for me personally, again, the penultimate episode and the finale of season one really had me begging to certainly come back, to the point of like the penultimate episode almost felt like it could have been its own sort of finale in and of itself. And then finishing off with the season finale the way that they certainly did, with the creation of the additional rings and stuff. Like, there is something to sink our teeth into and to really be excited about for season two. I just hope that they can acquire that magic again, that lightning in a bottle, and really get audiences to certainly come back for it. I don't know if you had the opportunity to see this series for yourself or not, but I do remember this coming out around the same time as the House of Dragon, if not like this around the same time. And like one episode would drop on Friday, and then that Sunday was Game of Thrones. So I mean, to be put up against that sort of competition and be compared to something else, I can understand why people certainly would gravitate towards Game of Thrones after just coming off of the massive 7-8 seasons that series certainly had. So maybe Rings of Power didn't get the opportunity to truly shine the way that I think it could have had it been separated from House of the Dragon. But I am curious if you got the opportunity to check out the Rings of Power, if you heard anything about, if you didn't, if you had heard what other people had said about it.
Yeah, I know that like a lot of people were not fans of the show. For me personally, I just thought it was okay. But I do
Mhm.
agree with you. Like the last two episodes, I think really made the whole season very much worth it. I do have to admit that when it comes to a lot of the kind of deeper lore aspects of it, I cannot remember a good chunk of the plot pretty much. Mostly because I love the Lord of the Rings movies, and I thought the Hobbit trilogy was just okay as a whole, but I never read any of the books except for The Hobbit. So I've never read the Silmarillions, the Lord of the Rings, or what was the other one? Because someone in the comments was mentioning the one that Amazon has access to, which is the appendices, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
the appendices. Uh huh.
Yeah, so I've never read any of that. So the my only issue with the show is that I feel like, especially like towards the beginning, but it's the same thing with like most shows that do it this way. It really felt like it kind of went on the expectation that you were somewhat of a really big Lord of the Rings fans already going into this. It definitely
Gotcha.
felt like a show that's really hard to get into if you aren't already like super invested into that world. But that like small complaint aside, like I do think it was the show was good for what it was trying to be. Uh when it came to the comparisons with Game of Thrones, like I liked Game of Thrones better, but I don't think it's the fairest comparison because I think that, they're very different shows. I think this one went for more adventure, whereas Game of Thrones does what it does best, drama. And so I think that, comparing two completely different things is a bit, unfair, but I think it did good for what it was. And yeah, I'll watch season two. It won't be like the most hyped show that I'm going to be watching, but I will watch it. And I can say this: my girlfriend, who is a lot more deeper into Lord of the Rings than I am, she has read, I believe, all three of the Lord of the Rings books and The Hobbit. I don't think she's read the Silmarillions or the appendices, but she really enjoyed the show, and she's really looking forward to season three. Season two. I'm sure she'll look forward to season three when it comes out. But so that all being said, I'm glad the show's getting renewed, and I look forward to seeing if it improves or not.
Yeah, and I also want to say, like, I don't necessarily think Tolkien's work is like the easiest to adapt either.
No.
Right? Like, I think it's definitely a struggle. And Geek Ledger in here says, look, I'm fine with Rings of Power as a loose adaptation, because you got to remember Amazon doesn't have access to the Silmarillion. They only have access to the Lord of the Rings appendices. And if that is the case, I mean, there's a lot of having to, build your own story around.
Mhm.
Sort of connect the dots, sort of thing. And I think in that regards, I think it did just fine. And so for me, again, I'm sure there are people that are big Tolkien heads that might have issues with it, but I think if you are somebody that might have just seen, see the Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings movies, I think you can jump into the Rings of Power and be like, yeah, it kind of fits the same aesthetics. I get kind of the same vibes. Clearly they're building towards something. And it feels like you mentioned, like an adventure, like very much like in a journey that they're taking you on. It does have like Easter eggs of name drops that you're like, oh, that sounds kind of familiar, and I kind of remember that character, sort of thing. So it does feel like building blocks. But the idea of Rings of Power as a loose adaptation, I think, is probably as good of description of it as you possibly can. As you probably can make it. So he also says, so Amazon had to fill in those holes themselves because legally they couldn't pull anything from the Silmarillion. And so it definitely makes sense. So I'm looking forward to it. I wasn't like blown away by the series, but I definitely was fascinated by it. And I think Marcelino at some point in time mentioned, I can't remember if it was in the Facebook posts or something like that. The idea that maybe there were maybe too many loose threads, too many storyline threads for people to kind of follow kind of at the same time. Like maybe the story of like the mysterious wizard or the mysterious character that we see. Um, Maybe that's a storyline that could have been pushed or held for like a season 2 sort of thing, and maybe the focus been on other characters the entire time. So I did feel like there were certainly a lot of threads to certainly follow in here. But for me, I really liked the way that it came together. Some really great mystery, some great action pieces. And so for me, I was a fan. I was a fan of it. So I'm glad to know that you too enjoyed the last 2 episodes for sure, because those really blew me away and making me want to come back for more.
Yeah.
But yeah, let me know your guys' thoughts. Yeah, Geek Ledger says Lord of the Ring appendices aren't even a separate book. They're literally like the author's notes at the end of each Lord of the Ring books and fill in lore and backstory. And if you're really basing a series off of the appendices, then yeah, I do think there has to be some level of grace given for them to have to fill in and connect those dots. But I think they've done a pretty good job of doing just that. So we'll see how season 2 goes. But clearly, Amazon has really high hopes for this series. They should. They put a hell of a ton of money behind this show. So they definitely want this to be successful and certainly work, to say the least. But we'll see how it goes for season 2, guys. But look, if you had the opportunity to check out Rings of Power season 1, let me know your thoughts in the comment section box below. And then last but not least, Stuart, because we are 2 big sci-fi nerds here, and the question of, are we alone in this universe still to this day, has us pondering that question. And I think right now, if any time, is like the perfect time to bring back the X-Files. Wouldn't you agree, Stuart?
Uh, I gotta admit something. I have seen very, very little X-Files, and I think it was because when I was a really young kid, my sister loved the show, and I happened to walk in on one of the most traumatic episodes I think I have ever seen. And I'm pretty sure anyone who's watched the X-Files probably knows which one I'm talking about, but it was the one with the family and the mom who was basically tied up and basically just forced to give birth basically her whole life, and that was like her only purpose. That traumatized me from watching the X-Files for a while. So wasn't a big fan. I've started, every now and then I'll hear about a specific episode because like some YouTuber I watch will be a fan of the X-Files, and I'll go back and I'll watch it, and I'm like, this is a show that I should get into at some point because I do like the concept of it, and I really love Mulder as a character. But man, there's now that I'm like, past the fear part of it, now I'm more at the oh man, that's a lot to commit to, and I already have all these other shows I have to get around to.
It's so funny you mentioned that, because I remember I tell this story every once in a while, anytime I feel like X-Files gets brought up. But it used to come on in prime time, on Fox, and it was something that it would always be around dinner time. And I just remember one night my mom had dinner ready and she brought dinner out. We're all eating at the table, and a scene came on X-Files. And she's like, why do we always have to watch this nasty shit every time it's dinner time? Like, why do they always have to show this stuff on TV? Like, all the time we watch this show when we're eating. But yeah, they definitely have some moments in there. Just great makeup work. Some crazy like alien. I can't remember if it was like the guy that lived in the freaking sewer or something like that, and he's just like, well, just flesh with like these gaping like fang teeth or something. I think he lived in like the sewer or some shit like that. I can't remember what it was, but X-Files always managed to find a way to kind of gross you out. But as much of a legacy as Mulder and Scully have certainly left behind when it comes to the X-Files. I was a huge fan of it. Was even a big fan of the first X-Files movie that they did. I don't think I've seen the most rebooted like miniseries that they had. I think I missed out on that. But it looks as though X-Files is in fact returning. We've talked about this before, that Ryan Coogler himself is going to be taking a stab at the X-Files reboot. And this week, while we don't have news from Ryan Coogler himself, I thought it was fascinating that the X-File creator himself, Chris Carter, came out and talked about the upcoming Ryan Coogler series. And anytime we get the opportunity to see an original creator talk about something kind of being rebooted, I mean, we just talked about the pushback that things like The Crow is getting from its original creators and cast. The fact that X-Files Chris Carter is coming out and talking about it, I thought was pretty interesting. So let's go ahead and dive into this, Stuart, and see exactly what Chris Carter has to say. Is he going to love it? Is he going to hate it? According to the Wrap, it says X-Files creator Chris Carter gave Ryan Coogler his blessing for series reboot. He's got some good ideas. So this definitely has me hyped, y'all. Let's go ahead and dive into this, shall we? This comes to us from the Wrap. It says the X-Files Chris Carter landmark 1990s sci-fi show that starred David Duchovny and Gillian Anderson have already seen 2 reboots, with another on the way from Black Panther director Ryan Coogler. While Coogler didn't need Carter's permission to reboot the iconic series, he did wind up getting the Emmy-nominated creator's blessing. The Wrap chatted with Carter at the opening of his art exhibit, where he addressed the upcoming reboot and the legacy of the sci-fi series, which celebrated its 30th anniversary in September. Carter confirmed that Coogler will produce the upcoming series, but he himself would only be involved in the new X-Files incarnation as a cheerleader. So they asked him, will you be a part of the X-Files reboot? And he says, I wouldn't, only as a cheerleader. They don't need my blessing. 20th Century Fox and Disney owns the show. They are free to do with it as they believe. I'm honored that they came to me and asked me, not for my permission, but my blessing. And they said, you've spoken to Coogler about it? He says, I'm not supposed to be talking about it according to Disney, but I'll tell you, yes. I had a conversation with him. Yes, he likes to go with the diverse cast, and he's got some good ideas. He says, do you plan to watch the new version? He says, yeah, sure. I'm curious. It's not the easiest show to write because of the subject matter. It's not like Law and Order where you have the crime of the week. You have to imagine what if, and that what if is sometimes hard to tackle. And then he says, but you're not interested in doing another revival of the X-Files yourself? He says, oh, if David Duchovny and Gillian Anderson wanted to do it again, yeah, probably. Then I would be inspired. So he opens up to the idea of wanting to do it if they were in fact interested. But it does seem as though he's at least given the blessing to Ryan Coogler in here. I kind of dig the idea that he seems fairly positive about it. But what do you think about this, Stuart? The idea that Chris Carter from the X-Files is like, yeah, he's got some good ideas, that it's not necessarily the easiest show to certainly tackle. But what do you have any thoughts on that?
Dude, this is how I wish most people would react when, it comes to having their shows being redone or rebooted, or, because here's the thing, man, and this is going to be a super hot take. So I'm just ready for people in the comments to give me shit for this. I think that once you create some art, any kind of art, and you show that art to the world, you're kind of inviting people to have their own interpretation of that art, whether you or not you agree with that art or not. At that point, your art has become an instrument for someone else to create their own art, if that makes sense. So, when you hear about like certain creators, they find out that they're, reboots are going in a direction that they personally would not have taken. I think like the big one that kind of comes to mind is Alan Moore more than anyone.
Yes.
When it comes to the fact that he won't even give HBO Watchmen's a watch at all. He refuses.
He hates everything.
Yeah, exactly. Anything that has that came from his comic run, he just hates completely. And I think that's a very immature mindset to have. I think this is the most mature take you can have for it, because even if someone doesn't get the point of your art and they do their own like take on that art that you completely disagree with, that you think, does like completely misses the point, here's the thing: it doesn't take away your art. Your art is still there. Your word of how what your art means to you and what it was meant to, represent is still there. They can't take that away just because they use that art to create something that you personally don't agree with. So I think that him saying this about the upcoming X-Files, first of all, I love the fact that he seems actually really excited, like he gets to watch X-Files as a fan, which is a really fun way to look at it too. But
Yeah.
the fact that, he just kind of like said, hey, it doesn't matter whether or not I want it to happen, it's going to happen. But at least now I can say that not only is it happening, but it's really cool of Disney to ask for my blessing when they didn't need to. I think that's a very mature way to go about the whole thing, basically.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I do. I'm glad that he pointed out the idea is like, look, it doesn't belong to me anymore. Like it owns this, it's somebody else's. They can do whatever they want with the content. But the fact that they reached out to me, I think probably speaks more volumes to Chris Carter than anything else. And so I really do dig that. And the fact that he even got a chance to speak with Ryan Coogler, I think is a big win. He says he's got some great ideas. And look, I think for me too, I think what fascinates me is just the idea of like, this kid from Oakland taking over, the X-Files, and seeing some of the things that he's done with like Fruitvale Station and Creed and the Black Panther movies, right? Like this feels like X-Files is so departed from anything that we've seen him tackle before. But the idea too that there's been talks about him and Michael B. Jordan wanting to do possibly a vampire movie together, like a period set piece, like maybe in a different century time. Like that alone seems super intriguing to me. And so the idea of like what ifs, and that concept that you have to tackle on a week-to-week basis from a kid from Oakland and from where he like grew up, like I am really fascinated to see like what that vision is certainly like, and like how he's going to bring that to the forefront. And so this feels very much out of the box of anything that I've seen Ryan Coogler done, but I feel like this guy honestly cannot miss right now. He's done some great work when it comes to movies and stuff. So the idea of him tackling X-Files is just really fascinating to me, and I really want to see what Ryan Coogler can bring to the forefront. Blossom with the super chat. Thank you so much, Blossom, for certainly helping out. Guys, look, if you want to help us out monetarily, super chats are definitely the way to go ahead and do it. It allows us to create new logos, better production values, get some new mics, get some new cameras in here, maybe go to other conventions, provide more coverage for you guys throughout the year. Again, we don't have any sponsors, so we really are just sort of fan supported. So super chats really do go a long way. Blossom says a reboot for X-Files. Holy manoli, are you serious? Yeah. Definitely serious, and I do think it's about time. Like I love David Duchovny and Gillian Anderson. I think Scully and Mulder are gonna live in my heart certainly forever, but they are getting up there in age. I've seen a lot of them solve mysteries for years. I do think that it is time, especially when we've got like the UFO sightings continuing to rack up now that we've got cell phone footage, more cameras out there. We even have the US government coming out and talking about the idea of like unidentified flying objects being a real thing that even they can't sort of explain what they are. The idea that there's like an emphasis on the unknown more than there ever has been before. I think if there is a time to bring back X-Files, this is probably as good a time as any, to be quite frank with you. And so I think this is coming out at just the right generation, and something that's going to be brand new for this current iteration of generation. So bring it on, man. I'm super pumped for this.
Yeah. Again, even as someone who hasn't watched that much X-Files, I'm definitely going to give this one a shot. The thing that this has going for it, with it being a reboot, I'm assuming with new characters, and we're not getting like the original actors coming back.
I don't think, I'm assuming if anything, because he does say in here he believes Ryan Coogler has a diverse cast, so I'm not expecting it to be like, hey, this is a new Mulder and this is a new Scully. I'm under the impression that we're going to get brand new characters that are going to be thrusted into the X-Files limelight.
Yeah. So if it's a new universe and new characters, you got two advantages there. One, you can retell some stories from X-Files, but like in a more modern kind of way, which I think could be very interesting, especially like you said, with more modern tech, things being able to be captured a lot easier. It also means you have to create more reasons for why, if this exists and someone has footage of it, why more people don't believe in the supernatural in this world. But the other thing that it allows is something that you can't really do with Mulder and Scully anymore because of how long the show's been going for, which is having the person that doesn't believe in the supernatural working alongside with the person who does believe in the supernatural. You'll have that chemistry back that you like literally can't have anymore with the original two characters. We can have that kind of dynamic back. So I think that alone is definitely a good reason of why like a reboot instead of like reboot in the sense of a new world, and not reboot in the sense of just bringing back the same cast and crew and doing it all again is what I mean. So I think overall it's a very smart decision to go full reboot with the X-Files.
Yeah, no, I totally think so. So you think maybe both people that we get, like they're like we won't have any skeptics between the two? You think they'll both be believers?
No. I think that's what's great. You'll have one skeptic and then one
Okay,
believer,
gotcha.
just like in the original series. But what I'm saying is that you can't really do that with the original Mulder and Scully anymore, because
Sure.
at that point, how can Scully like deny anything now
That's
after
true.
the show's been going on as long as it has? I
Like,
don't
girl,
know.
as much
Maybe.
crazy shit as you've seen, you don't believe still? You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't, again, I'm not an X-Files fan, so for all I know, maybe that dynamic was still going on between the two of them, but I'm assuming after several seasons and several movies and then a reboot that dynamic between the two of them is gone, and now they're both, she's still a skeptic, but she's not like a denying kind of skeptic, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I totally get you. Yeah. Blossom says, "Geez, oh, Susie, you're right, Stuart. When you show someone your art, you're letting in critics, good or bad."
Mm-hmm.
Um, Blossom says, "First Killmonger, now a vampire." Geez, oh, Ruby, what other villains or monsters can't Michael do? Yeah, he's trying to do it all, man. He's trying to do it all. Blossom says, "I don't believe in aliens, but still, it would be pretty cool if there were any."
See,
Yeah.
I'm on the side of, I don't believe we have ever been visited by aliens, but I do believe aliens are out there somewhere. It's just statistically, it would make no sense if we were the only race in the universe, or sorry,
Uh,
the only life in the universe is what I meant to say. Yeah.
yeah, I'm definitely a believer in aliens, bro, for sure. I definitely believe that we found them in New Mexico, been experimenting on them and shit in Area 51. Like, I'm a big alien head, man.
There
I
was
love UFO stuff.
There was a stock image I saw, but it was clearly like a fake one. But it was just really funny because it was meant to look like
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 found
people.
footage sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And it was meant to look like them experimenting on an alien, but like when you look at the alien, you look at specifically the shape and patterns, you notice that it looks exactly like Frieza from Dragon Ball. So the meme is, if this is real, we are all effed.
I love it. I love it. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts. X-Files getting a reboot. Original X-Files creator Chris Carter giving Ryan Coogler his blessings, as he's got some good ideas. Can't wait to see some of his what ifs. We want to know your thoughts. Are you excited for a reboot of X-Files, especially coming from somebody that's been doing an amazing job so far, and Ryan Coogler? Let us know your guys' thoughts in the comment section box below. And that will do it for all of our main topics today, man. So thank you very much for everybody who joined us for our main topics. I gotta tell you, man, sometimes picking these topics are not easy throughout the week. I was sitting here for like a good 2 hours yesterday, just looking at these topics, like, damn, what do I want my six to be? Had to throw some things into honorable mentions, but I think we had some great topics today. But
Agreed.
Stuart, I think
Oh,
you know. Oh, what you got?
before we get into the live viewer questions, something I do want to mention, an idea I had for like kind of, I think this could work as a Star Trek-esque type of series, not without it being directly like Star Trek, but I always thought of this. What if there was we lived in a world where there was life on Mars and they evolved at the exact same rate as us? Like, the two questions I would have is, one, how long would it take us to finally, discover that life? I would assume it would have to be sometime like early 1900s is when we would discover. And then two, now that we would have known that they're known for a fact that there was intelligent life out there, how much faster would, like, NASA and other space programs out there have, like, accelerated their missions, just to finally meet our neighbors? So my idea idea is that like in this world, it kind of creates a borderline utopian type of future similar to Star Trek, because now we're in a world where everyone's searching for that same goal on two different worlds. Basically, that goal is to bridge the two worlds together and, learn basically that idea for knowledge, is something that like everyone in the world strives for, which means like less war, less, that kind of stuff. People are more inclined to work together for this incredible like achievement.
That definitely sounds like a sci-fi program, like on the Sci-Fi Channel for sure.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even necessarily consider that like a Star Trek thing. I think that's could be its own sort of solo sci-fi movie or series for sure. Not even like a Battlestar Galactica as like I think you can really make that into a television series. I think that's a good premise, honestly.
Yeah, I think it would be something that'd be like a lot of fun.
There was something else that Blossom said in here.
I
Don't
think
a
you'll like
million
this one.
Ollie remind me you guys of, or is this me? I mean, yeah, I guess yeah. This is definitely a level of it, just a lot more mature for sure.
Mhm.
In that regards. Blossom did say, "How many reboots will we be getting?" Yeah, there's a lot of reboots these days. But you know what makes me feel super old, Stuart's like all these reboots are coming from stuff that was like in the '90s, and the fact that that's like 30 years ago to me just blows my mind. Like it's just
Mhm.
hard to even wrap my head around the things like that I grew up in loving during the 90s is now like 30 years old, and probably warrant some good reboots. But I think the fact that we get so much pushback for these reboots, I think one, it just goes to show you how great some of these television series and movies were back in the day. That were just like, please don't touch this stuff, please don't touch this stuff. But you look, when you're 20, 30 years out, that's a whole new generation of people. So I think there's a level of understanding why there's so many reboots also in regards to this stuff.
Yeah, and I think it's I think what it comes down to is this the same reason like me liking the idea of reboots is kind of the same reason I don't mind like a live act adaptation. So bringing up Avatar: The Last Airbender one last time, and then I'll shut up about it. What I liked about there being a live action show, and what I was hoping it would do, is there are just some people out there, and that's nothing against people out there that are like this, but there are just some people out there that just don't like watching cartoons, whether it's because of the aesthetics of it or whether it's just like just not for them. So I always look forward to adaptations like this because then it introduces audiences and helps them get introduced to a way to watch the show so they can see what you see when you watch the original show. It's kind of like what I loved about Dragon Ball Z Abridged on YouTube. It's a
Mm.
parody of Dragon Ball Z, but to me, it was like it was a fun way for me to introduce people who I know would have zero interest in Dragon Ball Z into Dragon Ball Z. I got my girlfriend to binge all of Dragon Ball Z Abridged with me because I know she would not be into Dragon Ball Z at all, but she was super into that, and because of that, I was able to ease her into watching the Dragon Ball Z movies as they kind of came out in theaters. So, I think that's one like advantage you have to adaptations is that it just increases the fan base, and I'm always for that.
No, I think that's a good perspective and a good point. I never saw the Dragon Ball abridged, but was it just pretty much like
What?
making? Yeah, I never saw it abridged, but was it like just tightening the series up so like the pacing was better?
Kind of. It was basically redubbing and re-editing Dragon Ball Z, mostly, making it very much condensed because I think it's only in total, I think there are 33 episodes, but it goes from
Oh wow.
the Saiyan saga all the way to the end of the Cell saga.
Oh wow.
Um but it adds a much more comedic edge to it. It's
Oh,
it's
okay.
it's one of the funniest like series out there. I highly recommend it. Each episode's
Okay.
like only 10 minutes long at
Wow.
the most, and man, especially when you get to like it's rough at first because again this is all a fan project, so it was never like it doesn't have the biggest budget, so the sound is a little wonky in the first season, but I think by the time they introduce Nappa and Vegeta is when the show really starts to find its footing, and then by the time we get to the Namek saga, especially when we get to the banter between Goku and Frieza, it's some of the funniest like dialogue I've ever heard. Plus I love it with the Ginyu Force. They do like a Sentai parody, like whenever they appear on screen. It's great.
Okay. All right. Maybe it's worth checking out for sure then.
Yes, even if you're not a Dragon Ball fan, like I recommend it just because it's just funny.
Okay. Okay. Let's see here. All right, let's go ahead and get into our next segment of the show, shall we?
Now, everybody, it is time for live viewer questions.
And we are going to get into our next segment here, our live viewer questions. How do you submit a live viewer question? Let me go ahead and show you. So every Saturday, we'll probably go ahead and post the live viewer question post, so you guys can go ahead and check, go ahead and drop a question if you'd like. So just simply go over to our YouTube channel, as you see here, A Plus Hero Report. Click on that community tab. And you will see a live viewer question post. Ta-da! Posted 19 hours ago. Right now, we've got 5 questions in there. So let's go ahead and knock these out, Stuart. First up here, good old Doomsday certainly coming through. What's up, Doomsday? It's good to see you in here, buddy. Let me go ahead and bring up this. Boop, there we go. All right. Did you notice that throughout the Disney era, the season's title cards are played at the beginning and at the end of the opening theme song? I'm assuming that he's talking about Power Rangers. The season's title cards are played at the beginning and at the end of the opening theme song. Is that true, Stuart? Do you remember that? Did I lose you? Are you there? I think you're muted.
Sorry, I was muted. Probably. Let me title. So the title cards is in like the theme song, basically.
I guess so. Are played at the beginning and at the end of the opening theme song.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I think I remember that from watching it on Netflix. Like it would play at the end as well. Yeah, which they kind of did during the Nickelodeon era, except for it's always like a shorter, condensed version of the theme song.
And then he says, much like with RPM, do you consider Connor, Ethan, and Kira as the core team since Tommy became the Black Ranger 5 episodes into Dino Thunder? Yeah, I guess for me, I kind of did.
I would too, because like even though yes, he did do a lot of fighting with the team, his main thing was just to be a mentor. Like that was like his main purpose with the group.
Yeah, I always felt like Tommy, and I know we eventually wind up getting another ranger added, but I always felt like he was like the 6th ranger to the group, if that makes sense. I know he only came in 5 episodes in, but I always looked at Connor, Ethan, and Kira as the core team, not necessarily with Tommy, but maybe I'm tripping in that regard. To each their own, though.
Yeah.
Speaking of Dino Thunder, do you think it's a shame how Jason Napier, Connor, and Emma Lahana, Kira, were 2 of the actors that made Dino Thunder one of the best seasons of all time, and now doesn't want anything to do with the franchise anymore?
I think people take a couple of tweets that were made from Kira's actress out of context. I don't know if anything's happened since then, but I know that she made one tweet saying "Stop calling me Kira," and what's funny is that like when you look at the comments that she replied to, she didn't have an issue with Power Ranger fans. It was just Power Ranger fans that would literally only refer to her as Kira and act like that was her only thing that she's ever accomplished. She wasn't saying that, how dare you enjoy me in my role as Kira from Power Rangers. She was just saying, hey guys, I've done other roles. Can you just stop calling me specifically Kira? It's like same exact thing with Jeanette McCurdy. My girlfriend bought her book recently, and she was like saying that, yeah, if any fans were to say hi to me as Jeanette, I'd say hi back. But if anyone tries to say, hey, Sam, I'm going to completely ignore you.
Yeah, I think sometimes I don't. Yeah, I just think like sometimes maybe we like live in a bubble as Power Ranger fans. At least some fans do, in the sense of like, you might like an actress as a character, but you don't really follow that actress in like other things that they do, And I think it's important to remember that they are people at the end of the day, right? They are an actor or an actress and just another normal person like the both of us. Like I would probably get tired of people, like if I was JDF, I probably would get tired of people calling me Tommy all the damn time. Like, no, I have a real name. So I think it's just a respect thing and understanding like, look, we're just people. This is just a character that I played. I'm not really that person, sort of thing. And so I think sometimes if we're stuck too much in our bubble, we can kind of forget that. So I don't have a problem with it. I mean, look, unless they've actually come out and badmouth what they've done, if they've badmouthed the show then maybe, but I don't really know any of that connection. But I do think it's the case of if you just approach them sort of as actors, and I think it's like, look, that was a part of my time in becoming an actor or an actress. It was a great leaping off point for me. But since then, I've gone on to do other things since then, and
Mhm.
I don't remember how long it's been since Dino Thunder has certainly been on, but sometimes you probably want to be, known for other things than just simply that. And I don't think that's wrong of the actors to want that to be, That's like if I'm sure if like 20 years from now, Stephen Amell, if people just remembered Stephen Amell for his time as Oliver Queen and people approach him, hey Oliver, like I'm pretty sure he'd be like, no, I have a name, like
Yeah.
so yeah. Peg C, what's up, Peg C? Good to see you, man. He says a couple of questions. What are your thoughts? Oh, you know what? So before I get over to there, I want to ask you somebody because I think I did the episode solo last week. Somebody asked me who would be your Mount Rushmore of Power Rangers.
Ooh. That's
I'm trying to. I think for me, I think last week my answer was my Mount Rushmore was going to be Tommy, Jen, TJ. And then I was flipping on my fourth one. There was a part of me that originally said Billy, just because the impact that Billy has had and him coming back for once and always. But then I thought to myself, if to be fair, I think honestly my third one, and I said people are probably going to throw tomatoes at me for saying this, and this might be almost blasphemous to say, but I think I probably would say Izzy from Dino Fury. And I know she's just recent, but I also do think there's something about the impact that her character has just as the bigger lore of Power Rangers and just a generational thing too. I would probably put Izzy up there. Who would you be your Mount Rushmore?
all right. Oh man. I'm gonna make it easy on myself and just go with one from each era. So starting with Saban era, I would probably go with I'm gonna go with Billy for Saban era. For Disney era, oh man, Disney era is gonna be a challenging one. I'll come back to Disney era. Going to Neo Saban era. I'm gonna go with I really this is gonna be a weird one. I'm gonna go with Coda. I really like Coda. I'd probably
Okay,
have him be on my Mount
I
Rushmore.
dig that. I love Coda. I
And
love
then
that.
we're going with Hasbro era. Oh god, oh god. I don't know. Damn, Hasbro and Nickelodeon, I'm really having trouble with. I guess Zato. I think Zato, because I mean, like, he has a very important thing like that happens at the very end of Dino Fury. So you know what, Zato for Hasbro. Going back to Nickelodeon era. Oh
Or
god,
Disney.
hardest or Disney. Yeah, sorry. Going back to Disney era. This is gonna be a hard one. Man. You know what? Let's add a little comedic relief. Let's go with Ziggy. Let's go with three Rangers that take themselves very seriously, and then we'll throw in Ziggy.
I love it. I love it. I just wanted to get you on record for that. That's all. Blossom says my Mount Rushmore would be Billy. Oh, girl, you can't be putting all those up there. Look, Mount Rushmore is 4. You got to only pick 4. You got to only pick 4. That's Mount Rushmore. All right, we got she's trying to get like everybody in there. What are your thoughts on the new Superman logo taking inspiration from the first issue of Superman comic book and the signature S from Kingdom Come? I guess does the first Superman comic book, does he have that yellow outline? I think so. Like I wonder, is that the I'm trying to remember the costume that Tyler wore in his flashback sequence of when he became, did that have a yellow?
Oh, I don't remember. I'm gonna look that up right now.
Something tells me maybe it did have a yellow outline to it. But I think that signature S from Kingdom Come. There was always a tease that I've always wondered. While I don't necessarily think we're getting the story of Kingdom Come, there's something that makes me want to know if like this is the early beginnings of that world, if you will.
Yes. Yes to both. So yes, I do think that because James Gunn, his very first thing that he posted when he took over DC was a photo of DC of Kingdom Come, and he said big plans coming. I do think not it's not going to be anytime soon. This will be like if the universe is successful and it goes on for a while. I think that, we'll go with Marvel, like using Marvel phrasing. I think by phase 4, that would be the time to do a Kingdom Come storyline if it goes on that long. And then, yes, to the second question, the very first, the classic suit that we see in the flashback does have a yellow outline.
Right.
I totally forgot about that from the Superman and Lois series.
So yeah, I love the inspiration. And I think again, that just goes back to like the why I believe in James Gunn. I mean, this guy is such a comic nerd. Like he really loves these characters. And the fact that he can take inspiration from something like that, I think is pretty impressive. And Blossom does go ahead and clear up her Mount Rushmore. Bridge, Chip, Dustin, and Kendricks. I like the Kendricks edition for sure. Kendricks feels like she would be an
Ooh,
impactful one to have up there.
didn't think of Bridge. Bridge
Yeah,
was the
Bridge.
Green Ranger from SPD, right?
SPD. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Okay. Oh my God, he was great.
Yeah, I do love that.
I'm still gonna stick with mine for now. I'm probably gonna change my mind, like, the more I think back on it later on.
What do you think of King Oger getting adapted in South Korea as Power Rangers Kingdom Force? Really? That's pretty cool. Um, really, that's pretty badass. I never even heard of that before. But Kingdom Force sounds like a really cool name, honestly. It does. I can't lie. Like, even though I'm ready for a Power Ranger reboot, if there was an adaptation that I wanted to see happen, I think King Oger would have been incredible just because of the suits alone. I think them being so uniquely different from some of the past Power Ranger suits that we've had, I think the suits alone would make that series stand out on its own.
Yes, and I also love the name Kingdom Force, and especially because of, like, its fantasy aesthetic that you could honestly make it, like, tied to, Mystic Force.
Yeah, I really. Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah, man. I would love that callback to Mystic Force. I think that'd be so badass. What are your thoughts on Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill reuniting one last time for Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 3?
Did
Um,
they record lines with, Kevin before he passed?
was
Or
what are
is
we
it gonna
talking
be,
about?
like, stock audio?
Are we talking about the Are we talking about the CW series?
I assume they're talking about the,
The
animated.
animated? Is there a
The
part 3 to that cartoon?
Yeah, there's gonna be a trilogy, from what I hear. Because
Did they record that early for Kevin Conroy?
they'd have to, but I didn't even know this movie I don't even know if the movie was in production when he before he passed away.
That's why I'm wondering if he meant the CW verse. Did we have did Mark Hamill do any voice for the CW verse Crisis on Infinite Earths?
Nah,
No?
he didn't appear on he hasn't appeared since, like, Flash season 2, so I don't think he was in Crisis.
If they are talking about part 3, I mean I wondered like did they pre-record? I mean that was feels like that was had to been pre-recorded so long ago, right?
Yeah. I I know Mark there's no way Mark Hamill would be okay with this, but, like,
Like if
they
they
used AI, which I hope not.
yeah, I don't know, man. That's a good question. We'll have to if you can clarify that for us. It's so he's talking about the animated movie. Yeah, he clarifies it in the comment, and it's the animated movie. Ram Jam, do you know when they filmed? I gotta ask you now. Do you know when they filmed Kevin Conroy's audio work? Because that would be kind of trippy. Um, I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah. If they recorded it beforehand, awesome. But if it's like, yeah, if it
Like
was all
post,
done with AI, I don't like that.
yeah, it's trippy to me. Um, we'll come back to that one. Marcelino, here's what I think Crisis should have changed about Supergirl. Astra doesn't die and is instead in prison. Maybe a possible redemption arc. Even though Astra wasn't the most memorable villain, she's at least had that family connection with Kara. Red Tornado's origin is retold. In the post-crisis timeline, Red Tornado is created for the first time with Kara's past experience fighting the original Red Tornado, as well as guest appearance from the Ray. They are able to turn Red Tornado into a hero, and he leaves with the raid to join the freedom fighters. Samantha Rain dies at the end of season 3 instead of being saved, and Alex adopts Ruby. This can help show the negative consequences of the rebooted universe. Argo City mysteriously disappeared, only later to be revealed that Brainiac has it stored away in his collection, setting up for the final villain. What do you think? I mean, I do. I mean, I do dig some of the changes. I do wish that Crisis had took bigger advantage of using Crisis in that sense of rebooting things, because I did feel like it. I don't want to say it was a nothing burger, but it didn't feel like it had as much impact as I wanted it to.
Yeah, I think one of the weirdest things too is how like they purposely merged Black Lightning and Supergirl into the main universe so that it could be a lot easier to explain crossovers and them not having to do dimension moving in order to just have a crossover. But when they did that, they stopped doing. I mean, I know it was partially because of the pandemic and all that kind of stuff, but ironically, that's what caused the universe to feel more separated than ever before. Because then, like, characters would mention each other all the time, sure, but like crossovers rarely happened. And what happened in one show, even though it theoretically should have been huge, never got mentioned in another show. So there was clearly like a lack of communication when it came to writers. I mean, which I get, you're writing your own show, you shouldn't have to worry about what other people are doing, but I do think that like an Easter egg here and there could have gone a long way. And then there was also the whole thing where it's like they didn't change anything about the Flash's history, despite the fact that history would have had to have been changed. Like there was this whole episode in like season 8 or 7 where they were surprised to hear that there was a metahuman in Coast City, and it's like they were like, whoa, there are metahumans outside Central City. Like, what are you talking about? Superman and Black Lightning have been around, since like what, early 2000s, which means, yes, metahumans have been established for that long, way before the Flash. Like, if this was before Crisis, that line would have made sense, but this is post Crisis. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, Marcelino brings up, he says, the writers didn't take advantage of the rebooted timeline to fix bad writing mistakes they made in the past. And I agree, because I think we had read an article here where it's like they told them beforehand, like, hey, after Crisis, if there's anything in your series that you want to change or have fresh like restarts on, like this is your opportunity to do it. And I just don't think that any of them ever really did that. I do think the idea of Red Tornado's origin being retold, I would have liked to have seen him come back. I thought I did like it. Well, I think that was like season 1, if I'm not mistaken. I wouldn't have minded another shot at Red Tornado for sure. And the idea of Samantha dying at the end of season 3 instead of being saved and Alex adopts Ruby, I honestly thought that was the direction that they were going to go. Like, you could not have told me differently. The idea of, Alex talking about the idea of like wanting to, adopt a kid or like raise a kid of their own sort of thing. I honestly thought that was the direction that they were going to go with Ruby, thinking that Samantha wasn't going to make it out of this season, because it felt like a layup the way that they were telling Alex's story and the situation with Ruby and Samantha. So, yeah, some missed opportunities, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Cindy, the ball girl instituted in the facility in The Boys season 2, was used as a red herring for Victoria Newman, aka the head popper. She was attacked by Stormfront and presumed dead. That was until the end of the episode, where it was revealed she survived, escaped, and was hitchhiking. Now that she's free, do you think we'll see more of her story and her develop as an actual character in season 4? I don't know. Maybe.
I think so. Especially because we got a little bit of her. I finally finished binging Gen V, and so we got a
Oh,
lot
yeah.
of her in, or not a lot, but we got a bit of her in Gen V.
At
But
Gen V.
that little scene we got with her kind of said a lot. So I do think we're going to get a lot of her in season 4, and I'm really excited.
He said, I should have brought this up when it first came out, but a lot of people are saying that The Marvels is the new worst MCU film. I don't believe that. I honestly have been seeing a lot of people on Twitter really talking about the idea that they're kind of bummed that they didn't see this movie in theaters, that they kind of believed what people were saying about it being a terrible movie, and now that they've seen it on Disney Plus, it's really kind of changed their mindset about it. And not saying that they thought it was a great film, but a film that they ended up enjoying. It says when people saying that it's an insult to cinema or that it's an insult to actual garbage, some people also say that the movie didn't know its audience and that it was trying to market itself for women and not comic book fans, which is why they say it did poorly since women weren't interested in the movie. One thing they think would have fixed the movie would to have the women in skimpy outfits, because then male audiences are like, what channels are you watching, bro? Like who is saying this stuff? Like maybe we're just
Excuse
maybe
me.
maybe we're just living in like two separate bubbles here. Saying they made Charlie's Angels in space, it would have been amazing with some saying the best scene in the movie was Cameron Diaz dancing in her underwear. My God. They also used this Photoshop of Aman Vellani as what the Marvels should have been. I don't even want to look at the photo, honestly.
Oh, okay.
I'm really worried to even look at it. Some people even go so far as that the Morbius was better written, bro. No. What's your take on this? It's all lies, bro. Like
Yeah.
it's the most insulting thing I've ever heard. No, the Marvels is far from the worst MCU movie I've ever seen. Like I would honestly say whatever bubble or like whatever people like you get hear this stuff from, please Marcelino, stay far away from them, man.
Mhm.
Not to say that you agree with them or that you believe that stuff. I'm just saying the fact that you even bring this to my attention, that people are saying this, like, God, like it just drives me crazy, bro. Like it literally drives me crazy to hear people talk like this. Because I just think it's like fake outrage about nothing. And it makes me wonder if these people even saw the Marvels to begin with, honestly. Like, I want to bring up another story. Yeah, and I don't think you do, Marcelino. He says, of course, I don't agree with them. I just thought it was important to bring up. I would agree with you, and I'm glad you don't agree with them. But I'm like, where is he finding this shit from? Because I don't even. This sounds so outrageous to me. But as outrageous as it sounds, I'm sure there are people that believe that. My thing is like this kind of goes also into another story, and I'll get back to the Marvel scene in just a minute. But this happened earlier this week. I want to bring this to people's attention. On our Facebook page, one of our social media managers posted an article. I think it was from a Facebook page called the Comic Menu or the Cosmic Menu, where it was just a post about Isabella Mercade from the Madam Web movie. And the post itself said, there's reports that Isabel Mercade said that the only reason Madam Web failed was because men can't handle the idea of strong female leads being in comic book movies. Really kind of painting a picture that the reason why the movie didn't do well is because men can't handle, like, because men just don't like female-led movies and thinking it's woke and things like that. And it also went on to add to that the reason why she was so influenced to join Superman Legacy was because the movie really surrounds Lois Lane as the lead character, and she's, this headstrong woman, yada yada yada. I mean, if I never saw so much clickbait in my life to start outrage, and mind you, the post, and sometimes I would listen to posts like this or look at posts like this because it had like quotations and stuff. But mind you, it didn't show a link to anything. It didn't give you an article as to where this source of information. It didn't give you a YouTube video. It was literally just a post with a quote saying that Isabella Merced said this. And I even pushed back against this post saying, like, can I get a link in here? What's the article? Like, can I go back and actually read this for myself? Nobody responded to me. I found a YouTube clip, a TikToker. It was like the video itself was like a minute long saying the same exact thing. So it feels very much like the person got the news from a nobody TikToker and ran with it certainly as a story. And this story got so much traction on Twitter. I even saw one of my boys that I follow on Facebook posted it, and just the comments alone that people were giving to this, oh no, that's not why the movie failed, and pushing back and just really just disparaging comments about the idea of like somebody just made up the story. They just made up the story to cause fake outrage and to have men just bash women for no reason. And Isabel Merced literally had to come out and say, I can't believe that people are really like believing I said that. Like, you're really running with the story that's simply just a headline, but no actual quote from me. And
Mhm.
I took it down the same day that I saw it, before Isabella even came out, because I couldn't find the source anywhere. I looked for it myself. I couldn't find it anywhere, Stuart. And I searched for like a good 2 hours on social media. I could not find anything. And she eventually, like 2 or 3 days later, came out and said it. Sometimes it is just fake outrage to continue to push a narrative. Half these people probably have never even seen the Marvels. Half these people never went out to see Madam Web. And mind you, Madam Web sucked. That movie sucked. But the movie itself did not suck because of the fact that there were 3 lead females. In fact, I would go so far as to say the only reason this movie probably existed or was even maybe decent in people's minds is because of the female leads trying to do their best and save this horrendously horrible script.
Mhm.
And if anything, it just goes to show you the narratives that people try and gin up, the divisiveness that people trying to gin up. And I think we have to be very wary and not be afraid to push back on people with these type of narratives, because they are very harmful to people. They're very harmful to the mindset of people out there. So to say that the Marvels is the new worst MCU film is the biggest joke of my life, because that movie is not, it is not terrible in that sense. I mean, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a great popcorn flick. I don't think it's the best MCU film, but there's a lot of fun in that movie. I think the 3 leads in there really carry this film. There's some great action and great cinematography and choreography for the fight sequences. I do wish that some of the characters were developed a little bit more. I do think that the plot is a little bit thin, and I wish it didn't come in at 1 minute and 30. I think they probably could have made this 1 minute and 40, or added a couple 15-20 minutes to it to develop some of the core relationships between everybody. But to say that this is the worst, they clearly didn't watch Ant-Man and the Wasp or Ant-Man Quantumania, because they definitely would not be saying that. But it's because the fact that there are 3 lead women in that movie, and because of the fact that it didn't do too great at the box office, that's the narrative that they want to continue to push to you. And it's not true. It's not true. It is the most disgusting aspect that I see of toxic fandom these days, of taking this type of narrative and flipping it on its head. And the idea that it would have been better if the women were in skimpy outfits. What are we going back to, like 1990s, when like WWE Raw had like bra and panty and lingerie matches? Like, is that the type of mindset that we're finding ourselves stuck in these days? It is absolutely absurd to me, man. It's absurd to me, Stuart.
It's like, if that's what you want, just go on the internet. You can find that stuff on the internet. You don't need to, like, you shouldn't expect a PG-13 movie that is going for a wide audience to appeal to your sexual desires, man. That's, or I'm not to the person
I
commenting,
mean,
but to the people like making that comment is what I'm saying. Like, you shouldn't rely, if that's what you want, Google. There you go. You can get, and hell, you know what? If you want specifically like something very specific, even AI now. So yeah, no, I personally just really fucking hate those type of comments just as much as you do.
it drives me crazy. It drives me crazy. And Marcelino says Eric's Reloaded on his Seco channel, where he debunks a lot of the fake outrage. That's where I got that from. Well, you know what?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Congratulations to Eric's Reloaded for doing that. Because
Mhm.
we need more channels like that, honestly, because there are way too many YouTube videos that I see with clickbaity, hateful ass thumbnails that just get thousands of views and continue to spread this really negative ass message that just does not exist. And the idea is that we need more channels like that to push back on a lot of this fake outrage these days. Because that is just so bananas to me, man. I'm just so bananas to me.
Mhm.
Anyway, sorry, we went on a little bit of a rant there.
I gotta check out. I didn't even know he had a second channel.
Yeah, I didn't know he had a second channel either. He's clearly doing some good work if that's his cause.
Yeah.
Blossom says, I heard that Ninja Storm and the Rangers were said to be urban legends. Wait, hold on. I heard that in Ninja Storm, the Rangers were said to be urban legends, and Dustin was the only one who believed in them. Is that true? If it is, kind of reminds me of how the citizens of in our Tokuja story think the Rangers are imaginary, but that's only because they're under a dark spell. Do you recall that if they, in Ninja Storm, if they said that the Rangers were urban legends?
Yeah, there was a I mean it happens in quite a few different seasons. Yeah, in that one of them was like, I knew the Power Rangers were real, and someone else like commented, Power Rangers are just comic books. But I mean that same line's been used in what was the other, oh yeah, in the Ninja Turtles crossover episode. The Ninja Turtles thought the Power Rangers were fictional, and then oh, I'm sure there's more examples. I just can't think of them. Oh, you could also say how in Megaforce, a show that acknowledges the entire legacy of Power Rangers. You even have, I think it was Gina going, "Wait, Power Rangers? What are those?"
Yeah, there was elements of like the Disney era Power Rangers where I think that's one of the, I don't want to say that's one of the things that turned me off, is like I always liked my Rangers to live in the same universe. And anytime it was the idea of like, oh, Power Rangers don't exist in this world, or the idea that they look at them as urban legends and they're not aware of them, I'm just like, how do you not know? Like they literally just fought monsters all over the place in other cities. You don't know that the Power Rangers exist. I always wish that there was more connective tissues in that regard. So that always kind of threw me off about some of the Disney era series that we wind up getting. But that's interesting there. That's interesting there.
Okay, so sorry, before we get to the next question, I just want to say, so I'm checking out the second channel from Eric's Reloaded, and what's funny about it is that yes, if you were to look at any of these thumbnails, you may actually think he has the complete opposite take. So he is kind of fighting clickbait with clickbait, which I like.
So to draw you in, thinking, yeah, he's gonna talk about bashing the shit out of this thing, and then when you watch the video, he's actually pushing back against it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that's cool. That's pretty cool. But thank you, Marcelino, for bringing that to our attention. And yes, I know you don't necessarily agree with them. But look, to be fair, everybody has reasons for why they don't like a series. I'm never under the impression that they didn't like the movie. Like, just because somebody says I didn't like the movie, my first impression isn't, oh, you must be misogynistic, or you must not have liked the movie because it was women, right? Like, everybody has a reason. Like, people probably just didn't like the movie for their own particular reasons, and that's cool. But when they do bring it to my attention that they think that's the reason why the movie failed, and start like, I'm just like, bro, you've lost me. Like, you and I are not alike in that regards. Like, I just cannot, I can't stand that type of shit sometimes.
Yeah, for me, like the Marvels, I agree with you. Not the worst MCU movie. The Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania was way worse. But yeah, it wasn't my favorite Marvel movie. I had, some issues with it, but it is not Morbius bad. Like, holy
Oh
crap.
God, like, I cannot believe they compared it to that. Blossom also says, now that Mucus and Slither are allies, I'm thinking of having them seen with our Rangers. They'll sometimes be seen in this intergalactic arcade where her Rangers hang off duty. How's that? I kind of dig that. Maybe you can have Slither doing like some stage shows at the arcade, some low budget stage shows also with Mucus as his like co-host or actor with him. Jessica Fryman, would you like to see Sony take a pause on making Spider-Man villain movies and making a Ghost Spider-Man movie instead? And do you think Power Rangers RPM would be better off being available online than ABC Kids? Do you think Power Rangers RPM would be better off being available online?
I mean, if we're talking about when it aired, probably not, because I know it got a really crappy time slot when it aired, but the internet also wasn't really like not everyone had DSL, a lot of
That's true.
us still had AOL at the time, so I wouldn't have been able to stream it even if it was available that way. But I think that if it like came out like now during like on the internet instead of TV, yeah, I think it would do a lot better on the internet than if it aired on ABC.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. As far as what I like to see Sony take a pause on making Spider-Man villain movies and making a Ghost Spider-Man movie instead. How about we just pause on any Spider-Man related movie, Sony? I'd rather just that, honestly. Look, I like the idea of a Ghost Spider-Man movie. I just do not trust anything Spider-Man related from Sony, unless MCU Marvel Studios is going to be actually helming the project in collaboration with Sony. Then totally. But Sony definitely has a lot to prove to me before I care of any sort of live action, anything Spider-Man related that they certainly want to make. If they want to make something animated, hell, if they want to make a television series live action, I might give them some leniency in that regards. But live action movies, no, I'm okay. Animated movies, I'll be open minded to that. A television series, I might be open minded to that. But movies, just stop. Just stop.
Sony, if you want me to get hyped for live action Spider-Man movies produced only by you again, there's just one easy thing you have to do, and I will suddenly, not only will I make sure to see these movies day one, I will make sure to really, really promote them on our channel. Just fire Avi Rad, and then I think it'll benefit everyone. I think the movies will turn out better. I'll advertise your movies much more. I'll add more hype to the release, and I think the movies themselves will actually end up doing good financially and critically. Just gotta fire that one person. Everyone will be happy. Even Avi Rad might be happy because now he has a world of possibilities. He's been stuck in this job that he doesn't know how to do for so long. Imagine if he's open to a world of possibilities of things that he may actually discover he's good at. He can make money doing his actual talent instead of making money through poor decisions.
Yeah, man, I definitely need somebody else in charge of this Spider-Man universe for sure. Just because of the fact that it just feels like they don't have anybody creative behind the scenes. Like, I don't know who's putting these people together in regards to let's get this director and let's get this writer and put them together. Like the fact that they thought, hey, let's bring back the writers of Morbius, that people just shit on that movie, and let's make them make another movie for us. Like, it just feels very much like a cash grab. Like they literally just do not care, and they're just putting things out there in order to kind of hold on to the rights. And it's just a shame. And so I do think that they need more creative people that actually care for the lore behind the scenes in regards to making this content going forward. So you might be onto something there, Stuart.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. All right, guys. I think other than that, Ram Jam says I found the article of Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill from Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 3. It's on IGN. The headline is Kevin Conroy's Batman and Mark Hamill's Joker will appear together. Can you see if you can find that real quick, Stuart?
Yes. Looking that up now.
Marcelino also had another comment while you look that up. He says some people say that Megamind 2 is worse than Madam Web because Madam Web is at least funny bad, but Megamind 2 is just sad to watch because the first one was great.
Wait. There was a Megamind 2?
I guess so.
Oh, how the fuck did I not know about that? Now I'm kind of curious. Batman. Okay, here we go. I found the article. All right. All right, so it says IGN previously learned that the late Kevin Conroy would posthumously.
Yeah,
I don't know what that means. Would posthumously,
like after his death, yeah.
Oh, okay. After his death, voice Batman once more in the upcoming Justice League Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 3. Now we've learned from a source to the production that he'll be joined by Mark Hamill's Joker as well, featuring the final reunion between the two Batman the Animated Series voice actors. We can reveal a full voice cast here, which also it's just the list of. Okay, so it just says who's in it, but it doesn't explain how. So again, because I trust Mark Hamill as a person, I'm assuming he wouldn't have taken this up if they were using an AI to recreate his voice. So I think it is probably something that he knew they were making, and I guess maybe they just recorded it early, or maybe it was lines that were recorded for a very different project that got scrapped, and so they decided to use it for this instead.
Yeah, I do wonder how much of a role they'll play in there. Maybe it's like a quick scene or something like that. But Yeah, I mean, I gotta assume it's hopefully being done in good faith in regards to how they kind of put that together. Hopefully, they'll eventually explain it. But I mean, I think it's cool. If that's how they did it, if they pre-recorded it at least, and not nothing that they tried to just put together just to recreate his voice. You know what I mean? That would be a little bit disturbing to me. But as long as they did it in honor and in memory of him in a good way, then yeah, bring it on. I'm always down for their combination.
Yeah.
But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts. But yeah, those are all of our live viewer questions today, guys. So thank you so much for certainly joining us. We went over a little bit longer than we wanted to, but it's all good. And we appreciate you guys continuing to stick around through the whole 3 hours today, man, in and out, if you were. But other than that, Stuart, before we leave, man, any last minute thoughts or where can people find you at on social media?
You guys can find me at TurboStew01 right over here, over on Instagram. And yeah, overall, good show. Good show.
I'm probably gonna drop The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live episode 2 review later on this week. If not Monday, probably will be up first thing on Tuesday for you guys. Maybe I'll get the opportunity to watch it tonight. I am also debating whether or not I want to tackle Boon Boomger, the Super Sentai series. I think episode 1 just dropped this weekend. There's probably English dubs, English subs somewhere, so I might check out the first episode and kind of go from there. We'll see. It's just always a big commitment, like 50 fucking weeks, 40 something weeks of like a review. But we'll see how it goes. So I may do a review for Boon Boomger. I know there's a lot of other channels that are probably going to be doing the review for the Super Sentai series too. So I guess depending on how maybe our first couple of episode reviews do number wise, we'll see if it's something that we stick with. But I definitely want to go ahead and continue to review The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live, since that's only 6 episodes, and I love Andrew Lincoln and Denai Guerrera coming back as Michonne and Rick. So we'll see. And if we have any other series and movies that wind up dropping this week, maybe we'll do some other reviews for you guys and any news that's that winds up coming out throughout the rest of the week. So if you're not subscribed to us, hit that subscribe button, guys. Click that bell notification too. So anytime we drop a brand new video, you'll be notified. If you want to follow us on social media, right here at A Plus Opinions everywhere. We're also on Spotify if you like your audio, which they are also doing video versions of the show. You can find us at Hero Report, wherever you certainly find your audio podcast. We're also on TikTok at Hero Report. Follow us there. And if you want to catch up and stick up with us throughout the week when any trailer reviews, posters, news drops, follow us over on our Facebook page to stay up to date throughout the week. But other than that, guys, that's going to do it for us here. We'll certainly see you. You know what? Next weekend, I may be out of town. I'm going to be out of town. If I can, I'm going to see if I can follow up with you, Stuart, and Indy. Maybe if Indy is available, maybe I can get you guys to co-host a show next weekend. But I'll catch up with you guys and see what your schedules are like. So we may or may not have a show next weekend. But the following weekend, I'll definitely be back. We'll be back on schedule for sure. But we'll definitely keep you posted throughout the week. But until next time, guys, do us a big favor as always. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And keep it A+. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye.